Rajan, we see your presentation.
You see my presentation?
Yes, it's okay.
Now you don't see the presentation.
Technology can be deployed basically in two different ways. The first and then probably most natural for the mobile industry is to add the broadcast capabilities to their mobile network. So you have a unicast cellular network, and then you add broadcast and perhaps also multicast. And that enables a mobile operator to do all sorts of different things, probably more efficiently, some of them more efficiently than if they only have unicast. So this mode, standardized by 3GPP, is designed for the needs of the mobile industry, mobile network operators. Another mode is when you deploy the same technology as a standalone broadcast network. And that is something that was designed to meet the needs of the broadcast industry. So the building blocks are largely the same. They're not all needed on both sides, but in either way you have 5G broadcast. It's just what we are interested in so far mainly was this standalone model, the standalone deployment. Now, this is what I'm going to talk for the rest of my presentation. So what are the key features that we consider important? In terms of network topology, so how can a broadcast network be built or configured if you're talking about 5G broadcast, is that first of all, in a mobile network, downlink capacity can be organized in different ways. Typically, it's unicast only, can be partly unicast, partly multicast, or broadcast. But in this particular configuration, we only talk about broadcast 100% in the downlink channel. So there is nothing else in the downlink. And the network doesn't have an uplink, obviously. That's broadcast one-to-many, one-directional network. A device, so your handheld device, a mobile phone or any other device, may actually have an independent uplink in a different band, on a different technology, but not through this network. The network can be deployed on a typical broadcast transmission configuration, so large intersite distances. The specifications allow up to 50-60 kilometers, but I think you can achieve more in this under certain conditions. But you can also deploy it on a dense network. So there is a lot of flexibility. How can that be done? Single frequency network mode is supported, and another thing that is quite important there is it is possible to transmit over a broadcast network once and then receive on the terminals that are that could be subscribers to different network operators. So if you're talking about transmitting one television channel, and if the objective is to reach all mobile devices in a territory, if we only go via mobile networks, that means multiple mobile operators, each of them would have to retransmit separately. Now, if you have it as a shared broadcast, you can transmit once and everybody can receive. So those are just the main features. There is also a lot of flexibility on the services side. So the system was developed with the requirements for linear television and radio in mind. But the linear service can be delivered in a number of different ways. So you can see here, the common streaming formats can be files-based delivery, some conventional IP packet routing, or even legacy formats. You can transmit MPEG-2 transport stream over 5G broadcast. You can even configure the whole system to deliver free-to-air services or stay with the subscription-based. It can be devices that receive only, so without a SIM card or subscription. So all of this is possible. Now, in terms of the targets, what we see is the most realistic being mobile devices for mobile reception, so in a mobile reception mode. I'll come back to that point in a minute. Another novelty there is that for the first time, the mobile system allows a standardized interface. So as a content provider, you have a standardized interface and API to connect your service to the network. And also there is another one between the system, the network in the user device, which allows for application developers to actually build applications using that capability in the network. And an obvious question is then where in which spectrum will this kind of network operate? So the standards are not saying anything about it. So they're not limiting the features to any particular band. But realistically, we can only look at the downlink only bands for commercial reasons, obviously. And the other band that is currently being considered is the sub 700 megahertz band. So the one that is currently used for terrestrial television, yeah, for DVB-T and DVB-T2 in Europe and other technologies around the world. Okay, now if you want to know more about the system, those are the relevant specifications. So there is an ETSI specification, which is a profile of in 3GPP, we are talking about a large number of independent specifications, and sometimes the features are not easy to find. So an effort was made to collect all the relevant bits into one place. And this is the ETSI TS 103720. If you want to know what are the requirements that we have submitted to the system, to 3GPP, to the standardization process, you can find them here. And then there is also a 3GPP description, so the 3GPP document that describes mainly the radio side, but not only the radio side of the system. Oh, why are we interested? So I think that's the core question. Why are we interested? It's a mobile technology, and why would broadcasters want to get involved there? If you are in the broadcast business, I think the key question that you would always have is how to deliver your content, all of your content, to any device that your audience is using. And a lot of content is these days consumed on personal and mobile devices, and we expect in the future that will continue. And even more important will become reception in cars. And how can you do that? So the question is, can you do that at scale to everybody in the country? Can you deliver the Eurovision Song Contest on Saturday night to every mobile phone everywhere in your country at an affordable price with a predictable quality? So we don't have many options to do that today. We believe that 5G broadcast may be helped because the current mobile networks do not really scale well. So they are expensive, and the more people watch, the more it costs you. And they only deliver best ever quality. So with 5G broadcast, we believe that it might be possible to improve that situation. The other thing is, and that's a bit controversial, depends on whom you're talking to. The current use of the UHF band, so the television band, is it's really variable in different countries. So in some countries, it's really used to its full capacity. So in some countries have 6, 7, 8, 12 multiplexes of DVB-T or T2, and they cannot do much more than that with the spectrum. But in other countries, there isn't that much demand for DTT. Even in some countries, the DTT is no longer used. So the frequency bands are, the frequency band is actually free. What can we do with it? If we don't make it, as broadcasting community don't make use of it, then the band will obviously go to somebody else, and that somebody else is most likely going to be a mobile industry. So the question we are looking at is, can we make a better use of the band than it currently is, at least in some countries, while at the same time preserving the band for delivery of television? So the good thing is the answer is yes, because 5G broadcast can coexist with the legacy networks, with the DVB-T and T2 under the current rules, so nothing needs to change. And even very important for the production, it can coexist with the wireless production equipment, so wireless microphones in particular, that also operates in this band. So it is possible, we just need to make it happen. The third thing is that, and I think it might be something that is a good point for discussion in this forum, and because the audience might be the relevant one. The current broadcast model is very efficient for the delivery of linear television to stationary receivers. But with all fairness, you can't do much more with that. So it's not easy to expand this business model because it's always linked to a technology and to the service. Now, 5G broadcast as a technology provides a lot of flexibility, and we can discuss that in the greater detail. But the idea here is that as a network operator, you may be actually in a position to develop your business model beyond just delivering linear television to stationary reception, right? And finally, what we are seeing is that everything is moving to the IP solutions. So DVB-T and T2 are not IP based. And even in the DVB now there is an activity. DVB is a standardization organization that actually standardized DVB-T and T2 and many other things. There is an ongoing activity where they're looking at how to enable IP transport over the current networks. So everything is moving to IP. So what we are seeing is an emergence of what I would call a unified delivery framework for media. And a lot of that depends on the capabilities of the networks and in the availability of these features in the networks for the broadcast or to the broadcast industry. And on the other hand, you're all aware that 5G receives a lot of support from the political establishment, a lot of funding. It is a huge industry momentum. It's a global technology. So if we now have 5G broadcast being part of that technology, the family of technologies, and at the same time meeting the requirements of the broadcast industry, this is only a good thing. So this is why we are interested. Now, we did some study. We looked at various aspects. We discussed with many people. We had industry involved, and we produced a paper which we published last year. If you want to know more how we look at the future, I recommend this paper. However, a common objections that I keep hearing over and over again, and I just listed a couple of them here, and you may or may not agree with my answers here, but this is how I would put it. So some people say 5G is not a true broadcast system. It comes from the mobile side. It's not a broadcast system. It's a mobile system, and why are we bothering? Well, from all that we know, it is a broadcast system. We submitted the requirements, we tested it, and it works as a broadcast system. So I don't have another argument to offer than facts. The other often quoted objection is that 5G broadcast isn't really a true 5G because it's the LTE based, and now LTE versus 5G debate is a great debate after one or two pints of beer or coffee or whatever you prefer. But this is not really a fruitful discussion because it doesn't lead anywhere. 3GPP is working on two separate radio technologies. The LTE, which is the earlier one, and another one that is called 5G New Radio. But all of them, both of them, and all aspects are part of what we call 5G or what 3GPP calls 5G. So it's not for us to decide is it or is it not. LTE does support broadcast features, 5G New Radio does not. So it's 5G, it's as it is, it does what it says, and I think we should move on beyond that discussion. Okay. Then the next question is 5G broadcast spectrally efficient? It's not as spectrally efficient as DVB-T2. Well, I think the answer to that question depends on how it's asked. If we are comparing 5G broadcast with DVB-T2 under the same conditions, so everything else being the same, being equal, then 5G broadcast does indeed have some higher overhead. So if you would replace or compare DVB-T2 stationary reception with 5G broadcast stationary reception, DVB-T2 is probably a more spectrally efficient. But this direct comparison is not realistic because the two systems they aim at different purposes. And 5G broadcast is not meant to be for stationary reception or primarily. It's meant to actually serve mobile reception in mobile devices. And the other thing is the spectral efficiency strongly depends on network topology. So if you have a very dense network, you can achieve very high spectral efficiency. If you have a very network with very far apart transmitters, then the spectral efficiency goes down. And it depends on mobility situation and many other things. So we have to be careful there. the next one would be the question of coexistence between the 5G broadcast and DVB-T2. A lot of work has already been done. From all that we know is it's possible to make them coexist. The issues that are similar between 5G broadcast and DVB-T or T2 as they are between two separate T2 networks, for instance. So there is no difference, just a different standard or different system used, but the regulatory conditions and the issues that lead to coexistence are very, very similar. Then there are questions. Is 5G broadcast a replacement for T2? Well, my take on that is no, it is not, because being a little less spectrally efficient and also aiming at different family or population of devices, it makes no commercial sense to replace T2 networks with 5G broadcast. They are complementary. So that's my answer to that question. The other one I often hear is, well, mobile broadcast was tried before and they all failed. So if you follow that for last 25 years, you will see many systems that were tried and failed. And so what is different now? Well, everything is different now. What's different is that for the first time now we have a joint initiative by mobile and broadcast industry, which wasn't the case before. We didn't have proper devices. Now the devices are ready. Devices are in the hands of the users, and the whole ecosystem is actually global. It's forming around the 5G as a mainstream technology, and 5G broadcast is part of it. Yeah. So I can talk about that more if there is interest. Some questions are around the market demand. So is there a market demand? So from all that we see is, yes, it's forming. 5G broadcast is a new technology, but there is a lot of industry interest. So broadcasters, but not only, there are mobile operators, obviously mobile manufacturers, but also internet platforms saying, well, if I need to do live streaming over my internet platform, whatever it is, how do I get to the users? How much does it cost me? So all of this. And there is also potential interest from other sectors, not just media. So it could be automotive, could be this mass connectivity of things, they say Internet of Things, could be public protection, could be others. So there is apparently an emerging interest. And finally, when will 5G broadcast be commercially deployed? So that's what I get often as a question. When can I have it? When can I try it? How much will it cost me? Well, that's a difficult one to answer. So we have standards ready. There are many tests and trials. Regulatory conditions and spectrum auctions are currently being discussed, and I think these issues will be resolved in the next couple of years. Chipsets are from all we know, are coming. The next generation of mobile devices will have chipsets capable of supporting the 5G broadcast. And then the questions that really remain, and probably the most difficult one, are the commercial ones. So we need the right business models and we need somebody to invest. And that will need to somehow happen. Now, I'll stop here. The last thing I wanted to say is there is an association that deals with all these questions I named, and it is called the 5G Media Action Group. If you are interested, and I really invite everybody who might be interested in these topics to consider that, look at the website and consider joining the association. This is the current membership. And you will see that there are members from many different corners of the industry. So there are broadcasters, broadcast network operators, there are mobile network operators, there are mobile providers, there are some regulators, not many yet, hopefully there'll be more. There are many technology providers that are doing software, some that are doing hardware, big names, not so big names yet globally. Yes.
Sorry, I must interrupt you because of time.
Yeah, that's my last slide. So
okay,
thank you.
Great.
Questions?
Yes, questions will be in the discussion part.
Okay, right. So thank you then for the patience. Apologies if I ran over time. Okay, let me see if I can stop sharing.
Thank you. We proceed with the second keynote speaker. The second keynote speaker is Lars Backlund. Lars is Secretary General of the Broadcast Networks Europe. an organization representing interests of broadcast network operators in Europe. He has a long experience in broadcasting and other communication systems through Teracom Sweden, where he has held several leading positions, including international business development, strategic planning, and regulatory affairs. Lars, please proceed with your presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much, Stephen. And I will greet everybody with the new standard greetings phrase, which is, do you see me and do you hear me? No response?
Yes, we see you and we hear you very well.
Okay, and you see me as well. Okay, so that's when all the video conferences are kind of started by this little phrase, do you hear me, do you see me? So anyway, obviously technology works now. So the theme of the presentation I have been requested to hold is what about the WRC23 and what about spectrum? And I will share my screen now and to do a little bit of presentation or and try to explain what's going on. So I hope my screen is now on air. So
yes, it's okay.
Okay, so the presentation will deal with spectrum issues and activities in preparation of the WRC23. And of course, this is a very, very big issue and very many faceted issue to describe. But I will focus on basically one thing, the agenda item 1.5 in the WRC23, which will deal with the review of the spectrum use. Before we start, let me just tell you who we are, the Broadcast Association for the Broadcast Network Operators in Europe, in most European countries. So we are now representing 20 countries in Europe, and the association has been around for 11 years now, so it's quite some time. And of course, we are interested in DTT, which is the main business of most of our members, but also, of course, in 5G broadcast, what it may bring. So what we do is, of course, we represent the interest of the terrestrial broadcast network operators. We're based in Brussels. We have an office there, and obviously this is for lobbying reasons. And our prime focus is the availability of broadcast spectrum for TV and radio, and to secure the long-term market opportunities for the broadcast network operators. And that, of course, entails policy, regulatory, spectrum, and technology matters, information and cooperations. And we're also members of many of the international organizations like ITU, CGPT, EPSI, CGPT, 5G MAG, etc. And we do have an extensive network, including all the EU institutions, the regulators, and the broader broadcasting industry. So, having said that, now, the future of broadcasting, where do we start? Obviously, WRC23 is of prime interest, what will happen. But to understand what is going on, we have to go back to WRC15. And in 2015, it was at the conference, the World Radio Conference at that year, it was decided, a resolution was agreed to review spectrum use and study the spectrum needs of services in the whole UHF band, the 470 to 960 megahertz in region 1. And that should be done after the WRC 19. So that was the starting point. So when we came now to WRC 19, actually the agenda for this 19 was set by the WRC 15. This is how ITU works, that one conference sets the agenda for the next conference and the next sets for the further next, etc. So that was put on the agenda for WRC 19. Guys, you have to look at the UHF band. What shall we do about it? And then the WRC 19 actually created an agenda item for the WRC 23 1.5, which was kind of the order to review the spectrum use and the needs of existing services in the whole UHF band. You can see the exact decision down here. You can read it in the handout later on. But this was kind of the background, the mechanism that kind of initiated the process. So it was WRC 15 and then 19 putting the agenda to 23. So this was the starting point. And in more detail, this agenda item was to review the spectrum use and needs of existing services in the frequency band 470 to 960, the whole UHF, and consider possibly regulatory actions in the sub 700 megahertz band, the one we use for broadcasting in region 1, on the basis of review in accordance with resolution 235. So this was kind of the starting point. So now, what happened at WRC 19? Well, that was a fairly complex process. So, of course, we have the resolution ordering the WRC 19 to initiate studies and put an agenda to WRC 23. And what happened in WRC 19 was that the conference preparatory meeting, which occurred right after the actual conference, set up a task group 6.1, which was ordered to make a draft text for the conference preparatory meeting for WRC 23, and also submit a CPM report, a conference preparatory meeting report, with the results of all the studies, etc., that should go into 23. And this task group in turn created a working turned to the working party 6A, which is an ITU group, and asked them to look at some studies, look at assumptions for sharing and compatibility studies, and use of the sub 700 for PMSE. And that has also been supported, the studies have been supported by EBU and BNE in an SSPT group with studies and inputs. So it's a fairly complex machinery. And basically, the results of some of these studies were submitted just a few days ago from this part to this part. Anyway, the important thing now is this, that once we get to WRC 23, the work of the task group 6.1 will report the results of all the studies to a meeting which will occur a few months before the conference, and there will be a report going into the conference. These are the results of our review of the spectrum use and spectrum needs of existing services. So this is the kind of important chain of events. So one of the interesting things that came out in the report that was actually submitted to 6.1 just recently is a questionnaire that was shared to all the Region 1 administrations. And the question was, hey guys, how much spectrum do you actually need for broadcasting below 700 megahertz, the 470 to 694? And what came out of that questionnaire was that 83 countries said, yes, we need this spectrum for broadcasting, 224 megahertz, and 12 countries came out with the answer, we need more than the sub 700 megahertz band for broadcasting. So out of this report, which is available on the ITU, from ITU, of course, it was demonstrated that there was quite a big demand to retain this sub 700 megahertz band for broadcasting services. That, of course, could be both DTT and it could be 5G broadcast. But anyway, it was for broadcasting services. But of course, there's also a larger picture going on with WRC-23. This is what I just described, what's happened within the ITU, that the study groups, etc., are reporting to this CG6 group, which will report to the conference preparatory meeting, and there will be the conference preparatory meeting report going into WRC-23 with all results of the studies on the sub 700 megahertz or the UHF bands. But there are more stakeholders here. We have the CEPT, which is also doing studies and report, and the CEPT is all the European administration. So that's limited to Europe or Region 1. And there is also a chain of various groups. I won't explain all of those, but because there are too many. But one interesting group is PTD, which is tasked with producing a conference for the conference preparatory group, which is similar to the conference preparatory meeting, a kind of a European common proposal, what to do with the US UHF band. And also this group reports to all the European administrations, and they are, of course, then participating in the WRC-23. And then we have another level of stakeholders here, and that is, of course, the European Commission and the European Union. And we have the Commission, which is doing studies, consultations, doing policy and strategy. They have the radio spectrum policy group, which is proposing a position of the European Commission, what to do with the UHF band. And that has to be approved by the European Council, and that will define a EU position at the conference. And that position will be communicated to the EU, to the European Union member states, and they have to stick to that. And the European member states will instruct their administrators. This is what we think about the UHF band once we go to WRC-23. And then in all this, I should remember that BNE and EBU together runs an SSPT group, which is Spectrum, which is sharing, planning, and terrestrial services, which is feeding information to these groups. So the whole show or the whole spectacle is quite complex, but this is basically what's going on to prepare for WRC-23. But then it's more, of course. So we have all the other regions, the Americans, the Asia, the Arab, Africa, the Eastern European countries will have a say-so. And there might also be multi-country proposals that's coming out of the blue, you could say, to the conference. So fairly complex. But then it's more to come. When we look at the stakeholders who are now interested, we have all the groups which are organized by the Commission, the ITU, and the CEPT. But of course, these are the central stakeholders for the conference. But then, of course, we have the manufacturing industry. All the guys manufacturing the mobile systems are interested to influence what's happening. We have the trade organizations for the mobiles, GSMA and CGPP, interested in what's happening. We have the trade organizations for all the telcos, like ETNO, ECTA, the satellite guys, the Digital Europe. And of course, we have also the big telecom operators, quite active. So this is on the telco side, you could say. Then we have on the broadcast side, we have the broadcasters. I just picked a few. We have, of course, the EBU. We have ourselves, Broadcast Networks Europe. We have the 5G MAG organization, and we have the APWPT, which is difficult to pronounce, but these are the guys dealing with wireless microphones and similar things. And then we have on the more cultural side, you could say, the wider spectrum group representing trade unions, the theaters, the creative industry, etc., interested. And we have a German group called Save Our Spectrum, which is also promoting retaining the sub 700 megahertz band for broadcast services. And then, of course, last but not least, I just picked a few countries, but there are, of course, national interests. The US is pushing. They have Qualcomm with all the patents for mobile. We have France, quite influential. Russia, the biggest operator of terrestrial networks in the world. China, with very high ambitions on industrial policy and, Huawei, etc. So these are the stakeholders surrounding the WRC 2023. And of course, this engages thousands of people. And the WRC meetings are actually thousands of people. So what's at stake now? For us, in the broadcast industry, the UHF decision from 27 ensures the availability until at least 2030 of the sub 700 megahertz band for terrestrial broadcasting. But the current exclusive primary allocation for the sub 700 megahertz band to the broadcasting service is challenged with a possible co-primary allocation to mobile services at the WRC 23. One result of all the studies is that the mobile IMT services cannot coexist with broadcast services, whether those are 5G broadcast or DTT in the sub 700 megahertz band. But also, without this sub 700 megahertz band beyond 2030, the European broadcasting industry can no longer operate, innovate, and compete. And that goes for both DTT and 5G broadcast. And this is, of course, important to realize. So some notes in the background now. The Radio Spectrum Policy Group within the European Commission, which has actually set the policy target to make more than 10 gigahertz of harmonized spectrum below 100 gigahertz available for wireless service, and that's 5G, 6G, and mobile, whatever. And when you look at with the initiatives already going on and already underway, there is more than 12 gigahertz spectrum available for mobile services. And if we look at the allocation of the 470 to 694, the 224 megahertz, the broadcast services represents less than 2% of comparable and available bandwidth for mobile. So we're not using much, but of course, these particular frequencies are quite attractive. We must also realize that the broadcasters, the network operators, and consumers have invested to clear already the 800 and 700 megahertz band, and that is completed. And that's fairly large investments that have been done. But when we're talking about a co-primary, we're not, and a possible another digital dividend, we're not talking about additional dividends. It's about regulation and decisions which may fundamentally change the media distribution landscape in Europe. And of course, this is why we're quite interested in WRC 23. So our view now is that the sub 700 megahertz band should be retained for broadcasting and downlink only media services also beyond 2030. We would like to see no change of the allocation at the WRC 23. We foresee that DTT will be attractive and remain 5G broadcast will be introduced as a new complementary service to reach mainly mobile phones, tablets, and cars, as Darko just described. We will continue to pair with PMSE, radio astronomy, and white spaces, which is what's happening today. And other services like downlink services of other types are already possible within the GEO6 framework. So we're not excluding other uses of the band for countries that may not have DTT or may not wish to have 5G broadcast. Also, DTT and broadcast is energy efficient and green, and we think that the sub-700 megahertz band remains instrumental for the European culture, content production, and media sector. And of course, if you look at the success of DTT, most countries in the world actually have adopted terrestrial broadcasting and using DTT, perhaps various standards. But typical coverage is 70 to 98% of the population. And if you look in Europe, we have some 250 million viewers with a daily viewing time of average more than 3 hours per population, with 2,000 TV channels. So to conclude, I think that DTT is the primary source of trusted information and quality content for Europeans today and for the foreseeable future. 5G broadcast will become a new complement to reach mainly mobile phones, tablets, and cars. We'd like to see continued availability of the sub-700 megahertz for the broadcasting service well beyond 2030. We think this is instrumental for the cultural content production and media sector, and also a trusted source of information. It's environmentally friendly, and this is what we want to have from WRC 23. But of course, that's a very final remark, why we are so active and why we are lobbying and why we are in all these studies. It's if you're not at the table, you are on the menu. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lars.
Thank you, Lars, for the interesting presentation. I would like to apologize for slight technical problems with the stream that we had at the beginning. This webinar is being recorded, so you will be able to watch it and make up for the first few minutes that you missed. I would also like to remind you that the discussion and questions and answers section is at the end of each part of our webinar, so you are free to ask questions all the time through Slido application, and our panelists will answer some of them. You can scan this QR code that you see with your smartphone, or you can type in slido.com in your web browser and enter hashtag MBT, and the application will show you what to do. Tigran, you can take over.
Thank you, Doroka. Before we proceed with the program, here is one poll for all watching this webinar. Please use Slido application, as Doroka said, and participate. Results will be presented at the beginning of the discussion part. Okay. In the next part, representatives of broadcast network operators from the region will give a short introduction speech or presentation on the technological and market status of digital terrestrial television in the country compared to the other platforms and the vision for DTT in the future. Please watch all the time, 5 minutes maximum for each company. First speaker is Zsolt Arki, CTO of Antenna Hungary from Hungary. Zsolt, please.
Good morning. Good morning,
Good morning.
listeners.
Good morning.
Thank you. I would like to give you a short overview about the Hungarian DTT situation. I start the presentation. I hope you can see my presentation.
Yes.
Thank you. So a few words about the Hungarian DTT situation. You can see here the Hungarian pay TV market, and as you can see, Hungary is there is a very good penetration of cable TVs. The IPTV is growing year by year. There is a good digital cable penetration. There are also satellite TV services in Hungary, digital satellite TV services, but it is decreasing year by year. And there is a small portion for the DTT pay TV that is operated by Antena Hungária. And there is a still significant DTT free-to-air part in the chart, as you can see. Obviously, the figure for this part is an estimated figure because we do not have any survey for the free-to-air usage. Antena Hungária started the DTT service in 2008. And after the analog switch off in 2013, we had 5 multiplexes in DVB-T and PEG-4 format. Antena Hungária had a license for 12 years, which expired last September. And now we have a new license for additional 12 years in Hungary. But the new license is a bit different than the previous one. Obviously, we had to release the 700 MHz band last year during the change. And also, we had an obligation to change the technology, at least partially, for DVB-T2 and HEVC encoding. Now we still have 5 multiplexes, 2 multiplexes in DVB-T2 format with MPEG-4. The main reason is the existing hundreds of thousands of TV sets for the free-to-air services and the set-top boxes for these free-to-air services. So the viewer of the free-to-air services didn't have to change the TV sets and the boxes for receiving further the DTT free-to-air service. The other part is the pay TV part, which is 3 multiplexes in DVB-T2 format with HEVC encoding. And this is the pay TV service. For this, obviously, we had to change the boxes at the viewers. And Antena Hungária bought all the boxes and changed at the viewers the boxes for this new technology last year. Last year, actually, it was a real challenge for Antena Hungária to manage this change because we had to completely redesign the nationwide network. We have 93 transmitter sites, and we have more than 99% coverage, which is a very good figure, I think. And this figure is same for all the multiplexes. So all 5 multiplexes available everywhere in the country, or almost everywhere in the country. We have some HD channels. There are 6 HD channels in the free-to-air part. These are the public TVs. All the other channels in the DTT service is SD format, not HD. But later on, I can give you some additional thing about the HD content, which is not on the DTT part, but in other part, it is available for the Hungarian users. So finally, we successfully managed the change last year. And from last September, we have the new service for additional 12 years. But before September, from January till September, we had a lot of work on the network. Several times we had to change the frequency. Several times we had a couple of hours outage in the service because of the work we did that time. And so there was a lot of inconvenience for the viewers that time. And there was a quite significant risk if they churn from our service and to change a cable TV service. Finally, it not happened. We didn't have a significant churn, but definitely we wanted to give some additional things to the viewers, just not the pure pay TV service. And finally, we renewed our product portfolio, which has 3 legs now. The first of the free TV service, which is called Mindig TV in Hungary. The Mindig means always in English. The second leg is the pay TV service, which is the Mindig TV Premium service. It is a normal pay TV service. And the third one is the OTT part of the service, which is completely renewed last year also. In the pay TV service, beside of the free-to-air service, we have several packages: the entry package, the basic package, and the family package. And there are some independent packages as well. This is the leisure package and the children's package. The children's package is a quite unique package, at least in Hungary. There is no other service provider who has this kind of service. It is an independent and standalone service package with 10 kit channels in it. And finally, some words about the OTT part of the service. We have a complete OTT service which contains 14 free TV channels. For the pay TV subscribers, all the TV channels available on the OTT part as well for free of charge. And there are independent monthly TV packages here as well. We have catch-up service, we have VOD content on the OTT part, and there is a subscription VOD service as well. We have some unique channels. One of them is the Hungarian Basketball Championship, which is available only in our service in Hungary. And there are some European Basketball League channels as well. This service is available on the web, on the mobile phones, on the tablets, but also we have application for Samsung and LG TVs, which is the two most popular brands, at least in Hungary. And also this service, this OTT service is available on the set-top boxes because we are using or we give hybrid set-top boxes to the viewers. So if the set-top box is connected to the internet, then the OTT part, the full OTT service is available on the set-top box as well. And for example, on the EPG list, there are some additional channels which is not available on the DTT service, but available on the set-top box from the OTT service on the same way as the other DTT channels. And for example, as I mentioned, we have yes.
Sorry,
it is the last page.
Okay.
Last page. So, thank you. So there are many HD channels available on the OTT service, which are available in SD format only in the DTT park. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Zsolt. Okay, next from Radiocom Romania, here is Alin Tercila. Alin, please proceed with your presentation.
Hello to everybody.
Hello.
I will share the presentation. It's okay?
Yes, okay.
Okay. Radiocom has a history more than 85 years, and in Romania is still a leader in the field of broadcasting of radio and TV programs. In Romania, digital terrestrial television was not as successfully as in other European countries, probably due to the fact that the implementation at national level started very late. The turning point was the switch off of the analog transmission in June 2015. About 5% of Romania's populations migrated to other existing infrastructures such as CATV and satellite, because at that time was no national digital terrestrial television network yet. So in 2014, Radiocom awards the Multiplex 1 license for the encrypted transmission of public television program, and even we start to the acquisition process to implement the national network. The acquisition procedure was contested in the court, and at the end was cancelled after 2 years. So we succeed later on to finalize and implement the network, and at the end of the 2020 in December last year, and right now we have completed network with all the equipment involved in the chain, with the head end, the transport network, which is over the fiber and over microwaves, all the transmitters, generators, and so on. And we distribute the public TV programs on this first multiplex in MPEG 4, 1 HD and 9 SD and 8 SD programs. We have 228 transmitter sites, which cover more than 96% of population and 86% of our territory with free-to-air programs. Unfortunately, we don't have any commercial programs on DVB-T2, and I think in Romania will remain like this. Only the public programs will be distributed on the free-to-air on terrestrial. This is on the few words what we have in DVB-T2 right now in Romania.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Our next speaker is Nikos Mastorakis, CEO of d.o.o Greece. So Nikos, please start with your presentation. Hello, Nikos.
Yes, we'll share the presentation in a minute.
We don't see a presentation. Can you share?
Can you see now?
Yes.
Okay. So, good morning to everyone. A few words about d.o.o and a few facts about us. d.o.o is the sole commercial DTT network operator in Greece. In Greece, in total, there are two, let's say, network operators. One is the public-owned that supports 3 public TV channels with a total market share of 10%, and d.o.o that supports all the private-owned national and the regional channels that have a total market share of 90%. Some milestones this year. The company has been established back in 2009. Then in 2014, we acquired the network license that expires in 2029. We completed the analog switch off in 2015. And last September, we started the clearance of the 700 MHz network. We are currently in the process, and we expect it to complete by September 2021. In total, we operate 160 transmitter sites in Greece, and the overall population coverage exceeds 96%. Technology is DVB-T with MPEG 4, which support both SD and HD still, let's say, in Greece. And in total, we operate 3 national multiplexers and 1 to 3 regional multiplexers, depending on the region, let's say, in the area. Overall, we serve around 100 private-owned channels in Greece, out of which 7 are national-wide channels and 92 are regional. So now a few facts about the DTT market in Greece overall. Greece is a market where cable TV has not been, let's say, developed at all. So the traditional means of TV service offering is through, let's say, free-to-air terrestrial channels. Today, the penetration of free-to-air, let's say, channels of our network exceeds 85%, and the pay TV market overall consists of 900K satellite connections, plus another 250K IPTV connections, plus another 650K of over-the-top, which is Netflix, Apple, and Amazon TV channels. So overall in Greece, we're about 11 million, let's say, people. The households are 4.1, and it seems that our penetration is quite steady, and we continue, and we think that we will continue to be the primary, let's say, means of service offering in Greece. The next challenge for us is that we plan to introduce DVB-T2, let's say, technology in 2023. The reason that there is some delay is that we need to do it together with the public-owned network, which is ERT. So this will introduce some delays in the process. And as soon as we'll do that, our main plans, let's say, is to continue to have a fully utilized network in Greece, because the law provides the capability for us to offer pay TV service through our terrestrial network. So that's from us in a few words. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nikos. I encourage the audience to ask questions which will be answered in the discussion part of this session. So we continue with the program. Next is Pavle Nešković, head of the RTV department at Radio Diffusion Center, Montenegro. Pavle, please continue.
Good morning to you all.
Morning.
I hope you can hear me all.
Yes.
First of all, thank you, Mr. Vržina, for introduction. I am the head of the RTV department, primarily the maintenance of the transmitters, and I've prepared a short presentation of our current situation in our T2 network. Hope you can see.
Yes.
Just a moment. Okay. I'm trying. So I have a bit problem. Okay, it is on. So this is the situation with T2 network in Montenegro on this day, on May 2021. We have started our digital transmission back in 2013. And we started with T2 from the beginning. So no migration from T to T2, just the T2 standard. The presentation is very short, and I managed to put the basic things we have in the network. So I will start with the transmitter and repeater count. We have 112 broadcast sites with 61 transmitters in 17 with 1+1 configuration with 17 of them, 26 gap fillers, 19 transponders, 6 regenerative transponders, and 39 transmitters, and 6 transmitters, all for MUX1. We have 39 transmitters for MUX2 and 1 gap filler for MUX2 with 7 local MUX transmitters. Totally, we have 126 transmitters, 27 gap fillers, 19 transponders, and 6 regenerative transponders. And when you put it on the map, it looks like this. Because of our geography, we have a lot of transmitter sites, and as you can see, we consume lots of power, which is bad, but I suppose that's it. We can't cover more. We can cover our territory with less transmitter sites. multiplex content, well, we have two large multiplexes with total of 38 TV programs and 2 radios, with one basic package of 20 programs, which is essentially multiplex 1, with 6 free-to-air programs and 2 radios. This multiplex covers 99% of our population. Since we have lots of hills and mountains, we are not our intention is not to cover the territory but the population, and this is how it works for us. Apart from this one multiplex, we have another one also large with 18 programs, which is fully commercial. And we in all of these multiplexes we have 3 HD programs and 4 local multiplexes, which are emitting local public service TV channels. Our pay-per-view platform is called TV za sve, English TV for everyone, and it is a DTT pay-per-view platform. Which consists of the basic package with 4,720 subscribers. We have an extended package subscribers with 2,913 subscribers, and our market share is 3.26% out of all pay-per-view platforms, which is a very good result considering that IPTV is very strong in our country. For free-to-air percentages, we have 6.1% of overall population which is watching only free-to-air channels, and out of that 6.1, we have 21.7 of all population in northern region, which is a little poorer than the south, is watching only free-to-air programs. I've made this presentation to be very short, since I wanted to save time for the other speakers. So this is about it. If you have any questions, you can ask it later. I can provide you with the answers on top of my head. So thank you for your attention, and that's about it for me. Please forgive me for any mistakes I've made, since I'm a bit new to this, to all of this. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Paula. No problem. It's a nice presentation. Thank you very much. Next presenter comes from Slovenia. Here is Miran Dolenec, Director of Odajniki in Zveze, RTV Slovenia. Miran, please proceed.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, just a second. Can you see now?
Yes, it's okay.
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 First of all, comparing to some other presentations we saw today, we should know that Slovenia has high cable and IP penetration. At the moment, we estimate that DVB-T share is 10% or less only. You can imagine that under these conditions, TV stations do not see DVB-T as very interesting platform for TV channels distribution. After analog switch off in 2010, we set 2 Maxis with quite a high capacity in those times using MPEG-4 compression. Max A is dedicated for public channels only, while second Max C distribute commercial channels. On this slide, you can see the covering area of Max A. As I said, it is dedicated only for public channels. Covering area is around 97% of Slovenian households. And first three public channels, Slovenia 1, 2, and 3, are distributed in HD technology. Max A capacity is full occupied at the moment. The second Max C, it has 89 transmitting locations, and the covering area is somewhere around 94% of Slovenians households. At the moment, only 3 commercial channels are distributed in this multiplex. Important moment which I have to mention happened in 2017 when 3 commercial channels which are high watched in Slovenia decided to end DVB-T transmission, and after that you can imagine that the share of DVB-T reception dropped below the 10%. And at the moment, Max C is now only 14% occupied, and we cannot cover the costs which are caused by Max C operation. There is no interest of other commercial stations to enter DVB-T, so we are forced to think about other use of free capacity. At the moment, we are in serious discussion about introducing pay TV on this empty capacity. Due to small number of Maxis in Slovenia, we do not need big part of frequency spectrum, I have to say. Consequently, we do not need to make transition to DVB-T2. So, as you see, Max A is a successful story due to the fact that serves free-to-air public channels to households. They not have possibility, technical or financial, to connect to other operators. I hope that we will find a solution for second Max soon to keep one important part of our core business. Regardless of technology, of course, I hope in the future we need some way to for free-to-air reception. And this is, let me say, short presentation from Slovenia. Thank you.
Thank you, Miran. Thank you. Okay, we continue with Mihael Jančić, Director of Radio and Transmission Network Development Division at OIV Croatia. Mihael, please.
Hello, everyone. Just a moment to share my presentation. Do you see presentation?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay. Hello, everyone, once again. I will give you a short presentation of DTT status in Croatia. At first, I have to say that OIV this year celebrates 95 years of radio and 65 years of TV broadcasting. So we have a long time experience in broadcasting. This timeline shows the changes that terrestrial television in Croatia broadcasting has undergone from the beginnings from 1956 until today. In 2019, we got new license for free-to-air DVB-T2 Maxis, and in 2020, license for DVB-T2 pay TV Maxis has been extended. And last year in November, digital switchover was finished from T to T2, and we clean up 700 megahertz frequency band. So since November 2020, OIV has been operating free-to-air, 3 free-to-air DVB-T2 MAXes. MAX 1 is provided for 8 national programs, consists from 215 transmission sites and achieved coverage more than 99%. M2 MAX is a combination of national and regional programs, consists from 3 national programs and 16 regional programs. And of course, its combination and the rest of available capacity is provided for pay TV content. It has 31 sites and achieved more than 97% of coverage. And L1 MAX is actually 2 local MAXes for towns, Šibenik and Zagreb, which are around. The license validity is until the end of 2030. Also, we have 2 MAXes, pay TV MAXes, MAX C and E, which consists from 25 transmission sites and achieved coverage more than 95%. License validity is also until the end of 2030. Maxi and Maxi is actually, we are doing that business with our partners, HT and HD Production. So this pay TV in M2 multiplex is also EVO TV, Evolution Television market product. In this graph, we can see share changing of each TV platform for last 10 years. And we can see on pie that DTT, despite of the transition from DVB-T to DVB-T2, is still a significant platform. It has more than 42% of share. And conclusion, all stakeholders in digital switchover process had a lot of investments, of course, last year. But by switching to DVB-T2, we achieved the cleanup of 700 MHz frequency band, better population coverage, better picture quality. All programs are in HD quality. There are new opportunities for broadcasters, advertisers, and end users. I don't know, HBBTV provide new advertising models, real-time content, and ad tracking analytics. So also in DVB-T here is a lower price for broadcasters as our users. So it's cheaper service price. And of course, the most important for us as network operator, it's preserved high percentage of DTT platform and its business continuity for us. So this is a short overview of DTT in Croatia, and what future will bring us, we will see. Yeah. It will be DTT until 2030, or will be combination with 5G broadcasting. We will see. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. We are out of time. Last but not the least, colleague from North Macedonia, Aryan Ibrahimi, project manager from National Broadcasting Company. Aryan, please proceed.
Thank you very much. I hope that my presentation is being shared now. So I will continue by thanking you very much for this webinar. Me and my colleague Lumni Munuzi, Chief of Cabinet for the public enterprise that we're working at, are very pleased to be here. So big ups for you guys for establishing this webinar. I will give a short introduction and also a status update for the current situation that we have in North Macedonia, and I will continue by explaining the market that we have going on and how the status and how we operate in North Macedonia. So our public enterprise does transmit through 95 DVB-T transmitters and also digital microwave connections, and we broadcast 6 TV programs that are emitted throughout the Macedonian territory. The 6 TV programs that we emit are 2 Macedonian TV programs, MTV1 and MTV2. We also emit a sports channel, a nationality channel, a channel for children's, and also a parliamentary channel. 4 of these channels are in HD quality, whereas the 2 other ones are in SD quality. So the technological status that we have in the current status quo is that we have DVB-T and also using the MPEG-4 technology, and we also have 2 multiplexes free-to-air, which we have licenses until 2023, 2025, and also to 2030. The plans for the future of DTT is to keep developing our terrestrial share. We are currently transmitting in 98% of the territory of North Macedonia, and we are planning to upgrade our facilities to 10 more in our network. And I'm also very pleased that my fellow panelist and also keynote speaker Darko was presenting the great presentation about 5G technology and also how that can impact the market of transmission of television. Since we are also having a huge project here in Macedonia towards implementation of 5G and also high capacity network. So that is also a market that we are very immersing in, and we are currently always trying to keep us updated in that aspect, since we believe that that is a great opportunity that we can use in the future of our public enterprise. This is some short words towards what we do on a daily basis and the technologies that we currently possesses and also use in the market of North Macedonia. So please, if you have any questions, please let me know in the question section.
Thank you, Arjan. Sorry, I skipped before Slađan from MBT Tehnika I Veze. So the following is Slađan Stanković, the CTO of MBT Tehnika I Veze from Serbia. I apologize, Slađan.
Oh, it's okay. Let me share you my presentation. That's it, I think. Do you see a presentation?
Yes.
Okay, let me start. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. My name is Slađan Stanković. I'm CTO in the Serbian broadcasting company, and I will start with market share in Serbia with data which provided by our regulator affairs named RATEL. And you can see that the distribution of the media content on the commercial platforms is growing up during the years, and now, but 2019, the 2 million subscribers are registered on some commercial platform for distribution of the media content, and you can see on the slide that cable is the dominated platform for distribution of the content, but we also should keep in mind that the cable, the distribution of the media content is bundled with other services as internet, so that's reason why is cable dominated in our market. Our estimation is that still 30% of the population is receiving TV or radio, TV especially a program based on our DTT free-to-air platform. Regarding the technology status in Serbia and technical parameters on the three multiplexes which we got in according in law 2012, I think. You can see that we launched three multiplexes. The first one and the second one is free-to-air multiplexes. The third one is paid TV commercial platform. And modulation parameters is very common for that kind of distribution and allotments. And also video coding is MPEG-4, audio coding is MPEG-1 layer 2, and we start directly to T2 modulation and finished DCO process in Serbia in middle of the 2015. You can see that the multiplex one is content of the multiplex one is our national TV stations, and population coverage is more than 95%, which was the target for the first multiplex. And we fulfill these results with 229 transmitting sites. And the MUX2 and the MUX3, our target was 90%. We fulfilled that, and as you can see, reach 97.3% of the population covering, and also 96.8% of population coverage. As I said, in multiplex one, national public services with their three programs, we are broadcast all three in HD resolution. Also regional national services 2 program, Radio Television Vojvodina 1 and 2, and also a national commercial TV station with national licenses. 3 of them is HD format, 1 is SD. So MUX2 content, you can see that for each region or for each allotment, there are a lot of regional TV stations. At the moment, we provide services for more than 100 TV regional stations. So MUX3, it's pay TV commercial service, and our partner Telekom Serbia is content provider, and they are in charge for subscribers, contracts, and so on. And we are providing broadcasting this content to the subscriber. So you can see there are 330 pay TV programs in SD quality of the picture. And regarding the plans and visions for the future, we are going to spread all 3 multiplexes and make them equal in terms of population coverage. And also regarding licenses, we got 3 licenses for the 3 multiplexes according with law. But after licenses expired, we possibly will compete for extensions of these licenses. Also, we are going to make plan for transition on the new frequency plan, according with regional frequency plans adopted in working group SEDIF, and we are planning also to try to launch trial 4K broadcast with Radio Television of Serbia, and I don't know, some coding platform is renewal is under consideration, and increasing number of HD channels. High efficiency video coding is also under consideration, but they are not only up to us. This is also receiving set-top boxes, legacy, and etc., etc. So more or less that's it about the situation in with the DTT in Serbia. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Slađan. Ladies and gentlemen, I must apologize once again regarding the technical problems that we had at the beginning. So we are now run out the time. So we do not have enough time for discussion and questions and answers. But let me share my screen for the moment. I will show you the results of our poll. Here you are. Okay, it's interesting, but we don't have time. Sorry, we don't have time to comment this. All questions which we received by Slido, we tried to answer, and we will put it on the website all together with the presentation, so it all together will be available for all participants which registered to this webinar. Now, just a moment. I will give the word to Dubravka.
Okay, thank you, Tigran. I hope that you enjoyed the program so far, and as Tigran told you, the presentations will be available after, and you will be informed where and how to get them, so don't worry. Before the short break, I would like to draw your attention to one charitable initiative that was started by OIV and MBT Association. As most of you probably know, a few days before the end of last year, a 6.4 magnitude earthquake struck Petrinja, Sisak, and the nearby towns in Croatia. Among many completely destroyed buildings, there are also those where Radio Sisak and Radio Petrinja were located. OIV has already helped them to establish temporary broadcast, and we would also like the other companies to participate if they are able to. You will see now a short video made by Radio Sisak, and after that a short presentation of their needs after that. So I will share my screen.
U 12 sati i 20 minuta jedan info iz direkcije Star Filma festivala koji će Opa! Svi smo čuli ovo. Vjerujem da ćemo uskoro dobiti informacije. Mi bježimo van, a nadam se da ste i vi na sigurnom.
Okay, so I have shown you the presentation from Radio CSAC, which always gives me the chills when I look at it. And now I will show you the PowerPoint. Okay. So as you already saw in the movie, the earthquake was really devastating, and the buildings where there are destroyed, and they are now in containers. So they need radio transmitters, they need IT equipment, office equipment, video equipment, and new space. Altogether, they need 152,000 euros. So we will try to help, and you will soon receive an email with all the information of how you can participate in this initiative if you are able to. So thank you. Okay, now it is time for a short coffee break. So I would like to thank our presenters, panelists, and participants, and we will be back in 10 minutes. I think that will be okay. Yeah, 11:05 is okay. So see you soon. Okay, so we hope that you had a pleasant short break and that you are ready to continue. While I would also like to welcome and greet our new participants and new presenters. We hope that you are ready for interesting presentations, and we are sure that you will find something useful at each session and in the end in the debate. So we have come to the second part of our webinar, where we address radio broadcasting. In this session, we have 3 keynote presenters, and after them, the representatives of network operators will have short presentations again and a panel discussion. The discussion and questions is at the end, as I already have told you, so you are free to ask questions all the time through Slido application. Therefore, I will again ask Mr. Tigran Vržina to take over.
Thank you, Dubravka.
You're welcome.
I just have a short introduction to this radio session. Future of terrestrial radio broadcasting is also very broad topic on which a lot of time should be spent. So we narrowed it down to DAB only. Although DAB Plus has been adopted as a broadcasting standard and as the future of radio broadcasting, not only in Europe, but beyond, in the Southeast Europe, it is not as well developed as it is in the Western or Central Europe. Therefore, the main topic of this radio session is how to run a successful DAB Plus project from the business perspective of the network operator and from the perspective of a radio broadcaster. The aim is to share experience and know-how among broadcast network operators from the region and invited speakers and experts on commercial deployment of DAB+. We are very honored to have such remarkable keynote speakers. So we will start with the presentations. The first of them in this session is Mr. Patrick Hannon, president of World DAB since 2013. He's also vice president corporate development at Frontier Smart Technologies, the leading provider of technology solutions for consumer DAB radios. His role as the president of World DAB is to work with the policymakers, regulators, and interested players to ensure that digital radio is successfully rolled out in as many territories as possible. Patrick, please proceed with your presentation.
Tigran, thank you very much. I shall. That's a beautiful introduction. I think probably a key message. I'll just try to share my screen here. Okay, is that sharing?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, fantastic. Yes, I think one of the key themes from your introduction is about working with other people, and you'll be hearing from the other speakers today. The collaboration is absolutely key. Anyway, so I'm going to give an international update, and this is the point of this is really to set the context, and then Karsten and others will be giving a bit more detail about some of the practicalities. So let me start. So the first thing to say is, look, my focus, and just to be clear, my focus today is very much on Europe. So DAB+ is established as the core future platform for radio in Europe, and this is a process that is, I suppose, to be honest, has probably taken about 20 years. But the key turning point from it just being isolated was in a small number of countries. Was the launch in Germany in 2011, which was then, as you can see, followed by Netherlands 2013, Italy, Slovenia, Belgium, and Austria. And what the map shows is the dark blue countries are those that have got really established services. The green ones are ones where they're still relatively new, and then the light blue, which is a lot of the countries that we're talking to today. Those are really at the beginning of the process. So just I won't go through every single market because what we're finding is that there's just more and more information. But just to give you some headlines from some of the larger markets. So in the UK, DAB listening overtook FM for the first time last year. In Germany, which we'll be hearing more about from Karsten, they launched their second national multiplex in October of last year. In Italy, they have a law which requires all receivers to have DAB+, and that was introduced in January of 2020. And maybe the most exciting news is from Switzerland, which has confirmed that it will be switching off its FM signals between 2022 and 2023. So they will be the second country after Norway to switch off their FM. And the other major news that's happening this year is the launch of national DAB+ in France. So this is, just to be clear, they've got already 10 cities are on air at the moment, but they haven't had a national network, and that will be launching sometime between mid-July and mid-October of this year. Probably it'll be late September, early October, and that's a key development in terms of making DAB a truly European standard. DAB Plus is also building its presence in Central and Eastern Europe. So Slovenia launched back in 2016, 85% coverage. Austria, May 19, 83% coverage. Czech Republic now has 95% coverage. Poland, 66% coverage. Ukraine has DAB Plus in Kiev, and Croatia has trials in 8 cities, giving 88% coverage. And the pipeline is growing. Serbia, trial. Slovakia, trial. Greece, services on air in Athens and Thessaloniki. Bulgaria, trial started in March of this year. Montenegro, trial started March of this year. Romania, it's a working group. Azerbaijan, I've got a trial. And Belarus, feasibility study was announced in 2019. So you can see that there's a real sense of momentum, right across the whole of Europe. And one of the key enablers of this has been the European Union. So they've seen these developments, which obviously started in the north and western part of Europe and then has been expanding. And one of the things that they wanted to do was to help support that process. So they passed a directive in 2018, which became effective on the 21st of December 2020, so December of last year. And that requires all new car radios within the EU to have DAB+. To be clear, to have digital terrestrial radio. In practice, that means DAB+. And we've seen a massive change. I've just had the latest figures. And just France, as an example, 82% of new cars in France already have DAB+ as standard. That's on the automotive side. The other thing is the consumer receivers, and I think the headline here is that they're truly mass market, and we've seen massive developments in Germany over the last 6 months in this area. Worldwide, we've now sold 90 million receivers. That's including both consumer and automotive. What that means in practice is that the prices are now much lower than they've ever been before, and it's you can get cheaper than this, but it's in general, prices are starting from about 20 euros. So it's definitely a price. It's a mass market price, which means that and in the past prices were higher and it was more difficult to launch digital radio. So what's driving these changes? Well, the number one benefit of DAB radio or DAB+ is that it offers greater choice, and you can see from these 5 countries, on average, there are 6 times as many services, national services on DAB+ as there is on FM, and that's obviously good for consumers. It's also good for broadcasters. And why is it good for broadcasters? Well, not least because it gives them an opportunity to innovate. Now, this is an example that you may well have seen before, but I don't apologize for showing it again, because it's the classic example of brand extension. So Absolute Radio was a well-known radio station in the UK, didn't have an enormous audience, but then they launched, as you can see, 6 new digital stations. So we now have a portfolio of 7 Absolute brands. And their audience tripled in 7 years. And what happened was that the underlying station, the core station, the audience stayed the same. All the growth came from the digital stations. And that's one radio station and one brand. But it's other broadcasters in the UK have followed similar strategies with other brands, and that has really transformed the landscape for radio in the UK. And commercial radio in 2020 was not a good year because of the crisis, but between 2013 and 2019, the UK radio revenues grew by 30%. And the key driver of that was the growth of the national brands, which really impacted audiences, but critically, it actually impressed the advertisers. They could see that this was a dynamic sector and a sector that they were interested in supporting and getting behind. And it's really come through to the bottom line. So that's on the revenue side. I mean, the other advantage, we have to talk about it, is the cost of DAB+. Now, every market is different, and every broadcaster will face different challenges. But the key point is that the cost for distributing a single station on DAB+ is about 1/5 of the cost of broadcasting on FM. So it's a massive drop in prices. And then I just want to highlight one particular aspect of this, which is the low-cost solutions for smaller stations. So in the UK, this is called small-scale DAB+, and essentially what it does, it allows local, so small local and community stations, these are often not-for-profit stations, allows them the possibility of getting onto DAB+. Because what we wanted to avoid was the situation where they were left behind on FM, and whilst the audiences moved to DAB. And what this has done has given them a lower cost of entry, which reduces the risk. And it also means that from a consumer point of view, a listener point of view, we're seeing a proliferation, a massive growth in niche formats, community projects, and a whole load of new broadcasters who previously would have found it difficult to get on air. And we've got implementations in the UK, but also Belgium, Switzerland, the Netherlands, and Denmark. Now, one of the key themes I want to highlight was that DAB is the green solution. And we saw that the cost of broadcasting on DAB+ was much lower than on FM per station. It's also true that DAB+ consumes significantly less energy than FM. And the BBC conducted a study which they published in October of last year. And the headline from that was that DAB was 33% more efficient than FM. And just to be clear, what they've done is they took into account both the energy consumption associated with distribution, but also with the energy consumption of receivers. Another key message, DAB+ is reliable in times of emergency. Alarm announcements, this is when if there is an emergency, and if you have this service set up, then radio stations will automatically switch from the service that they're listening to another service on the same multiplex, which is broadcasting the emergency message. So this has been introduced into the DAB+ minimum specification, was introduced last year. So that is now an option for broadcasters in any market. And then DAB+ is key to securing radio's long-term position in the car. I think worth saying, first of all, that World DAB members include the vast majority of the major car makers. I mean, you can see the list here: Audi, BMW, Daimler, General Motors, Honda, Hyundai, Jaguar Land Rover, Stellantis. If you're wondering who they are, it's Fiat, Chrysler, PSA, Peugeot, and Citroën, Toyota, Volvo. So they're all part of the World DAB family. And we work together to make sure that the in-car experience is optimized. So we know that new cars will have DAB+ as standard. Now we need to make sure that the experience is as good as possible, and we work together in partnership to deliver that outcome. So how do we achieve success? This is sort of the key model that we encourage people to follow. It's called the 5 Cs. And these are the building blocks that you need to get right if you want DAB to be a success. And the 5 Cs are coverage, content, consumer devices, cars, and communication. So just very briefly, Coverage, you need to have good population coverage, so that's the major cities, but also the roads, so that people, when they're in their car, can listen to DAB+. Secondly, content. You need to have a differentiated offering from what's available on FM. We saw that, on average, there's 6 times as many national services on DAB+ as there is on analog. That's the sort of model you should be looking to emulate. Consumer devices, we've spoken about, mass market prices, cars, that used to be a challenge. That challenge has largely gone away, really helped by the European directive. And then finally, communication, which is all about marketing. I'll move on to the next slide. Just one thing to highlight: collaboration at the bottom of this slide, absolutely key. Working with stakeholders right across the ecosystem. So marketing, Carsten has a whole presentation on this, so I won't say too much. But the point, what I wanted to highlight was the importance of having consistent marketing messages, particularly internationally. A lot of the people that we're working with, particularly on the manufacturer side, we want to display a consistent messaging. So this branding, which is now adopted widely across Europe, is key to that. And it's important, not only because we're dealing with people who've got international interests, like the car makers, but we're also having to deal with international competitors, the likes of Google, Amazon, Spotify. So it's absolutely essential that the broadcasters adopt a similar strategy. So, summary, conclusions. Number 1, DAB+ is extending its international footprint. We've now sold over 90 million receivers worldwide. Number 2, there are multiple benefits to listeners, broadcasters, and society. Final word, now is the time for action. Collaboration is key to success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick, for the presentation. I would like to say that I encourage the audience to ask the questions using Slido application, and this time I hope we will have enough time to answer to all questions from the audience. Our next, just a moment. For the moment, I will share my screen. Here, I hope that audience see, already slido.com and hashtag MBT for entering to the Slido. Our next presenter, the keynote speaker, is Carsten Sorger, Director of the German DAB+ digital radio marketing body, Digital Radio Bureau Deutschland, which oversees the marketing and promotion of DAB+ digital radio in Germany. He has extensive experience in the radio industry. Prior to this, he has held marketing and communications roles at the German National Radio Broadcaster, Deutschland Radio, ADAC, the German Automobile Association, and web hosting company ISP Strato. Carsten, please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. What I do is I share my desktop and let's go ahead. Do you see the green presentation right now?
Yes.
Good. And it's all already branded. We talk about marketing, so everything is beautiful. We hope it's all right. We all love radio, and radio brings to us all these happy moments. And of course, with the pandemic, radio is important for information and for exchange. But once and for all, it's entertainment, and it's going to be digital. So let's transfer these emotions into the digital age. As Patrick already told us, it's the 5 C's are the key to success. And this time we talk about communication on the right-hand side and about consumer devices, because what we want to do is we want to change people's listening habits from FM to DAB+. So basically they need to buy a new radio. We recommend, and Patrick said that already, we want you to use the DAB+ marketing kit available via World DAB. It's a download on the website. Why is it a good idea to do that? It's a toolbox. We have information on printed material, how to do this. We explain how to do online ads, websites, and social media. Of course, packaging of radios, and to design the point of sale at the trade market. Everyone uses it in Europe. Europe embraces DAB+, and they also now embrace the new logo and marketing toolkit. And all the major market newses use it. And it's important that the manufacturers who don't only produce for one country, but produce for European market, that they use it. And we finally have it that about 70% of all of them use it. So this green design gives a wonderful guidance to the customer. Look at that beautiful logo. It is not a smartphone because it has an antenna. That's why we want to show it's a radio, because it has an antenna. That's important. And if you look at the round font, it's a Comforta font. I've seen it first time a few years ago with Beats headphones. The company Beats headphones, before it was bought by Apple, used the same font. And this is how modern we are. Once again, a short look at the International Style Guide. You've seen that already. On the left-hand side, you see an example of a website. Down below here, where my mouse is moving, it's a folder. Behind there, it's a flyer. This is a roll-up. This is a door hanger, or even for cars. You can put this on the rear of a mirror of the car and say, this car has DAB included, which of course it's good for the customer. He chooses the right car. You have here a beach flag, and this is just an example how to show a packaging with this example by a company, Pure. Now, very quickly, a short survey around Europe, how colleagues and friends use the marketing toolkit. This is from the Czech Republic. This is from Slovenia. This is from the French-speaking part of Belgium. It's their website. This is from the Dutch-speaking part of Belgium, the website. As you can see, it's different. At the same time, it's related to each other. This is the German website. Has been around since 2018. This is the Swiss website, always green color, always the logo. And this is how the Australians do it. Up here, DAB+, more radio. More radio means more variety, better sound, more additional services. This is why we call it more radio. At the World DAB website, you can easily download the marketing toolkit. This is how it looks like. And of course, there's more detailed information on the World DAB marketing website, how marketing is being done in countries. At the German website, because we are radio people, you can even download radio spots, and we just updated them yesterday. If you are interested, in listening to the latest radio spots, you can go to our website and download the latest spots from yesterday. Now, for a few examples, I like to share sound, but I have to. What I have to do is I have to stop my sharing, because let me see. How do I stop sharing? Let me see, because this is how I do it. I stop my sharing now, but yes. I need to include computer sound, and of course I forgot to do this. So, do you see the presentation?
Wij zijn er altijd, overal.
Bij je thuis, op de fiets, in de auto.
Wij laten je lachen.
Vertellen je wat er in de wereld gebeurt.
En draaien jouw favoriete muziek. Wij zijn er als je alleen bent. Of juist samen.
Je ziet ons niet.
Maar je hoort ons wel.
Luister nu naar de digitale radio van morgen.
Je hoort ons allemaal op DAB+.
Het nieuwe geluid van radio.
Now, this was a wonderful example from the Netherlands, the new sound of radio. And the colleagues, these are important DJs, and they were put together in a video, and they all say, this is the new sound of radio, and it's on DAB+. Other countries do funny stuff, like, for example, the Swiss.
Passez dès maintenant au standard radio DAB+, qui remplace la FM. Un choix de station qui donne le tournis. Des programmes qui vous suivent plus loin. Plus de pop. Plus de rock. Plus de classique. Plus de sport. Bref, plus de bonnes ondes. Plus de stations, plus de sons, plus de radio. DAB.
DAB+. They have 4 languages. I just have shown you the French one. And finally, from Germany, a little explainer, you know, how radio is our part of our lives from childhood until we are grown men and women.
In einer fernen, fernen Galaxie.
Erinnerst du dich noch an deine ersten besten Freunde? Oder an deinen ersten Roadtrip ins Ausland? Oder an deinen ersten Kuss? Radio begleitet uns in den schönsten Momenten im Leben, auch in der Zukunft. Mit DAB+. Mehr Radio. Infos auf dabplus.de.
We have new videos coming for Germany in a few days, but they're not yet finished. Also, the Czech Republic has a wonderful video on, you know, how radio evolved from the beginnings till today. And the Belgian Flanders side have an explainer video, which is too long to show right now. It's 3 minutes. What is good on DAB+. Now, let's go into cross-media marketing, because we need to reach our customers with printed material on air and, of course, off air. We have an association. It's called Digital Radio Association of Germany. It started in 2011 with the start of the first MUX, and we want to promote awareness of DAB+, and we want, of course, accelerate the transition between FM to DAB+. We want to coordinate market interests neutrally, and we want to develop strategies in order to be able to ensure free-to-air broadcast, because, you know, there's Google and Amazon and Vodafone and all these companies who want our money. We want to make sure that free-to-air broadcast is here to stay. These are the members of our German association. You see company names that you know of, and of course partners from ARD and Deutschlandradio, the national broadcaster. This now is a very important slide. This is the key slide of my presentation. It's the 3 elements of cross-media marketing: on air, online, and off air. On air, we have TV trailers. Like an example I've shown you already, they come in on broadcast on public TV. We have radio spots, and of course we do news updates on the radio, interviews and everything. With you know, more times than during the month, we talk about news stations and stuff which is new. On our website, dabplus.de, we have news updates every day and social media. We have our own Facebook and Instagram channel, and we do news ticker and partner news. We have FAQ for partners who don't know much about DAB+. They can have our FAQs, and we do newsletter and have a look at B2B and B2C. B2B, of course, it's partners, it's the industry. So we talk to the CEOs of electro markets and of trade journals, and B2C is consumers. And we have another newsletter which is quite different from the B2B one in order to cater to our readers and listeners. We do a lot of paid media and editorials. Of course, it costs money, but we think we have to reach people. And this is what we do with online. Of course, we do off-air and point of sale in order to get the figures up, because last year we have sold 1,803,000 DAB radios in the German market. We have to train and brand electrical stores. So we go into electrical stores and tell them all about DAB+, and we do some branding. We have cooperations, and we also go to events like IFA. And now even at the bottom of this slide, we help Germany's Deutschlandradio with a digital switchover because they start turning off FM antennas. We had a little design competition. You could design for customers your own radio powered by Technisat, and you see the different designs that became the best-selling ones. Now, just very briefly to have a look at the B2B marketing. These are editorials and texts catering to trade fairs and trade journals. This is editorial for customers and consumers from last summer. Of course, COVID-friendly, sitting on your own balcony by yourself, listening to the radio, loving to listen to the radio. We have a colleague who does press releases and press activities, and we have increased our frequency with press releases, and coming back to retail, which is important in Germany, I want to show last few slides about the visits we do on retail section. We do 3,200 stores a year. Some of them are being visited twice a year. We do 15 minutes of training of staff and 30 minutes of point of sale branding. This is how it looks like, for example, in Germany, when you come into a store and you don't know what to get, FM radio or something else, a washing machine, you can easily find a DAB+ radio because it's all branded green and everyone is participating. This is how it's being done in the Netherlands. Last slide, I really would like to invite you to become a member of the World DAB Marketing Group in order to have a jump start into marketing. We can help you. We have best cases, and we even explain which mistakes we made and what we have learned to make things better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karsten. You are you have been faster than I expect. So
perhaps there are questions. Perhaps I can show videos. I could show a lot of videos. It depends.
Okay. We will proceed with the program, and questions and answers we will display in the discussion part. Our next keynote speaker is Bojan Ramšak, head of the development team at Oddajnik in Zvezu, RTV Slovenia. Bojan is not only DAB+ radio expert, he has a long-term experience of development and implementation of many new technologies in his company. Bojan, please proceed with your presentation.
Well, thank you, Tigran. I think you should be able to see my presentation.
Yes.
Can you see it? Okay. Fine. Thank you for this invitation. Till now, it was very interesting. My former from Karsten, this was very interesting what marketing can do. So I will try to show what's going on in Slovenia, and like we see, it's a very provocative headline. I hope we will get some questions at the end. So maybe some short background. RTV Slovenia is a national broadcaster. We are in the same company, content providers, and also network operators. So this is interesting in the later step. So you will see maybe a short introduction, a more short history, what we have done, what has been done. So the first project was in 1997. We have some pilots in Ljubljana, and later on in 2006, there were already some pushing from our company toward our agency to go into regular operation. So there was a big interest in our company from the beginning of DAB to start the DAB as an alternative, as new technology in competition to FM. But we've not succeeded. So in 2013, then there are some commercial stations, bigger commercial stations, joined these interests, and we together make some pushes on our agency. And finally, in 2015, they put out a tender for the first DAB+ network, and we succeeded to get the license in 2016. We launched our first network. And a couple of years later, the network was full, and ACOS, the agency, again reacted and launched 2 new tenders. But maybe some in-depth look at the first multiplex. So in the start, there were 4 national radio programs, our in-house programs, and 9 private stations. Maybe a short look in the tender requirements, which is very interesting. The requirements in the tender were 7 mandatory transmission sites and 7 optional. It seems nice, 14 stations from the beginning, but there was a limitation on the price. So the agency said the price per capacity unit per month is 32.1 euro. So it was very hard to put the network in operation, and we just went with these 7 mandatory sites. And there was also some requirement in this tender. The minimum bit rates for quality were on 48 kilobits and 24 kilobits. This later we'll see we got problems with this. Also the protection level was from the beginning no limitation, not upper, not lower. So later on in 2018 we added 9 additional private programs, and in 2019 we were able to succeed to add the new transmitter sites. So why these slowly steps? In Slovenia, we have a little bit complicated regulation. So every company, every program station who wants to enter these digital multiplex needs to get to acquire on a tender and get the allowance for entering this multiplex. And so this is not freely. So every increase of stations in this multiplex is driven by the agency. This is the law, and so it is. So finally, in 2019, we succeeded that the multiplex was full. So we have in the 19 services, 19 programs, and happily one is only on digital. This is also some limitation by the agency, because the tender they put out required that stations need to be on FM already. So they from the beginning started to having simulcasting on DAB, which is, like we heard before, is not according to our wishes and to the marketing, that DAB needs to offer some additional services, but this is something which in the end our agency is driving. So in last year we increased the power on some sites, so we increased also the coverage. And at the moment we are just finishing contracts. So happily, we will in 3 months we will have the first tunnel in operation in Slovenia, and from that on we will increase also other tunnels. So the coverage for mobile is this. We have here 85% of households, and it's very important to say that because we focused from the beginning on motorways and highways, as we know, DAB is focused on mobile. So therefore we have 94% of motorways and highways covered. Maybe some interesting is also this picture where we have real measurements with the car, and here we can see that we have some red areas in between. These are mainly because of tunnel systems there, and in tunnels, as I said, at the moment we have not coverage. DAB FM is working great together, so the system, the receivers switch to FM in these situations if the FM service is available, but this is not for commercial stations. So commercial stations from the beginning were hardly interested in having DAB also in tunnels, and we were pushing this forwards. We were able to get some agreement with our Slovenian agency this company for motorways and highways, and we have some joint ventures. So we together are now building these tunnel system, DAB in tunnels. So the first one will be in 3 months, I'm sure. So like I said, after this multiplex was filled up, the agency changed and put out to tender for two new multiplexes. So we call them R2 and R3. So R2 is split up in 2 regions, left and so east and west. And as I said before, these required bit rates were now a little bit, sorry, here we have, okay, it's okay. So these required bit rates are now had a little bit changed, because what was the thing? What we learned from multiplex R1? From the beginning, private stations wanted to enter in a DAB technology, And of course, the interest of them was to have the prices low, so to have the cost as low as possible. So they decided to go with 24 kilobits mono. We explained them they can use protection ratio 4A, 3A. Okay, to have prices low, they went with 4A. They were on air. If the signal is good, you can listen to them to those stations. But what is the problem? When users are driving on the road, because our national programs are with 3A protection ratio, they can listen to national radios. If they get to some maybe their favorite private radio, they switch to another. They experience better reception, worse reception, and worse quality of signal. And it's difficult to explain a user. This is because your company, your radio company is having to have costs low, and they spend less money for transmission. They just see it. DAB is not so good because there is some differences between national and with private stations. And this was an experience we together we talked to our agency, and therefore there is now in this R2 tender, the protection level is at minimum 3A. So 4A is not anywhere possible to choose by radio stations, which is from my point of view very important, because now every radio station is using this 3A. To be honest, to go higher with protection ratio, 1A or 2A, you spend too much bitrate on protection, and it is then not efficient, cost efficient anymore. So here I have the prices written. You can see them because we are a public company. Prices are public. For interesting, it is R3 is a network which is for Ljubljana locally only. And there you have the prices for less than €3 per capacity unit. So if you go with some average quality, maybe 40 capacity units. So this means it is very cheap to transmit in Ljubljana with on DAB+. Maybe some interesting point is also in Slovenia we have more than 80 radio stations on FM. So there is a lot of stations which we have to move or which can make some additional content on digital, on DAB. So the coverage for R2 is this one. So you see east and west. Again, there were requirements from the agency to keep the costs low. So we started with really only these mandatory transmission sites. And here we have R3 network, which is for Ljubljana only. Here we also maybe disagreed with our agency. We wanted to have this area in the center for Ljubljana a little bit larger to cover the daily migration, but agency is the driver in this area. They put out the tender only for one transmitter site in the center of our capital. So during all those, we have also put much efforts in promotion, how far we can from our point. So we renewed our internet sites. Now you can just write your address, and you get, of course, if it's able to receive which multiplexes, which frequencies on the radio, and so on. So this was also some changes which we done during this time. And okay, what are now our ongoing tasks? We have our extend the coverage in tunnels. So like I said, in a couple of months, we will have the first tunnel system, which will be a pilot project. And then we will try to put we will have an next tender, which will be then for the next 8 or 9 tunnels in Slovenia. So I believe in middle of next year, we will have covered almost all the tunnel systems in tunnels in Slovenia. So, of course, we want to increase the power of some transmitters, which we started from with low power at the beginning. Of course, some additional net transmitters, and want to fill up the existing new networks. So on Friday, just this is the last update, on Friday, the agency put out a new tender for 5 plus 5 stations, so east and west in R2. And they also announced that there will be tender for R3 for some new networks, so new services. Maybe some interesting in Slovenia, the European directive regarding DAB receivers in car has not yet been implemented. We got some difficulties with our parliament, and because this was has to be done in a change of the law for radio communication, and this law was not accepted and is now in procedure. So the directive is not implemented, but we have done some research on automobile market, and it's interesting that almost we checked importers has adopted, and now you can get you cannot get a car without a DAB even in the lowest price, or in the basic edition. So it seems that this directive, which is European-wide, has influence also in the automobile market. So we also from the beginning, maybe this is some interesting, we've also from the beginning, when we launched the network, we had a couple of meetings with the automotive, also with the car importers, to invest them what's going on, that there will be a new network and that they have to adapt their network, the products. There was some interesting feedback from them. They said, when will be the switch off? When will be switch off of FM was the question. And because I asked, why is this important? They said, look, when we have to talk to our company, to the manufacturers, and they're just asking what is the roadmap. So as soon as you have some milestones, some target, and you want to switch off, they said they adapt, and then they will be, of course, adapt also the products. So therefore, it's also interesting. Then 2 years ago, our a board in Slovenia, which is responsible for giving some allowance for stations to enter digital, they announced in Slovenia switch off for 22nd of February in 2022. It was very widely published in the medias, and we got a couple of requests. Is this true? Will it really be a switch off in Slovenia of FM? And sadly, we had to say that this is only a milestone this board has put out. But like I said, the agency is the one in Slovenia who is putting influence on the regulation, and their intention is at the moment not to switch off, but I think there can be a lot has to be done. So if we go back to the current ongoing tasks, we are also in contact with our Slovenian operator of of highways and motorways. So TPEC is something which will be also introduced in DAB. And of course, promotion, here we are a little bit not so strong, but I think we will improve in the future. Maybe also what we have learned so far. So minimum bitrate per service is something that you have to put not too low, so it still be attractive for private stations to have their costs low, but not too low that the service is not competitive to FM. So protection level 3A is minimum, never use 4A. And I was also guest in a couple of radio shows and some seminars, and I was able to present DAB and to promote it. And further or later, I got the question, what about 5G? So what about DAB 5G? I often got some very provocative questions. Why do we need DAB? 5G will cover everything. And I think it's very important to put efforts in this and to talk to people and to clear up that there is no competition, but it's coexistence. So that DAB Plus is a spectrum efficient technology, it's a green technology, and it's robust, and it offers everything that it will be in future some very liberal access to information, which 5G at the end have some limitations. And if I explain this to people, they further or later, even colleagues from the telecom market, they agree and say, okay, it's true, 5G and DAB+, there is no competition. This is really just a coexistence. And therefore, we put much efforts in doing DAB+ to push it forward. So also I want to point out that Open Digital Radio, which is a toolset for testing and doing some local muxes, we have very good experiences. We have run our R2 and R3 muxes with this technology for a couple of months. So this is very good. The people from this organization have done a very good job. And also I was talking with my colleague from the Public Relations Department. I got this information that according to some survey they've done the last year, DAB+ is in Slovenia used 15.3% are users listening over DAB+, which at the end is something very, it's a high number if we compare this to the other technologies. So we were quite happy with this, and I hope that, as I said, there are tenders out for new radio stations in R2. In a couple of months, we will have also the second multiplex and the third multiplex filled up with additional services. So this is it from my point. Looking forward to see your questions.
Thank you, Bojan. We have, I think, a few questions, but we will leave it for the discussion part. Before we proceed, just a moment. Here is also one poll for all watching this webinar. Please use Slido application and participate. And I again encourage all people from the audience to ask the questions, which will be answered during the discussion part. Results of this poll will be presented at the beginning of the discussion. In the next part, representatives of broadcast network operators from the region will give a short introduction speech or presentation of DAB+, radio status in the country, and vision of the future of terrestrial radio. Please watch on the time, 5 minutes maximum for each company. First speaker is Zsolt Arki, CTO of Antenna Hungaria. So Zsolt, please continue.
Thank you very much, Tigran. I'm here again. And again, have a nice day for everyone listening to this webinar. I will have a short presentation or a short introduction of Hungarian DAB service, which will be really very short because actually, unfortunately, there is no DAB service in Hungary at the moment. However, I can tell you that we have a quite long story already in the DAB from technical point of view, at least. Actually, Antenna Hungaria started the DAB trial in 1995 already. So it's quite a long time ago. And we kept the service in air till last September altogether. In 2008, there was a tender by the Frequency Authority for DAB Plus service, which where the winner of the tender was Antenna Hungaria, and we had the license to build up one nationwide DAB Plus network in Hungary. We started the DAB Plus service in 2009 with 3 transmitters in SFM mode in the capital, and we could reach already 27% of the Hungarian populations. This license expired last September, and unfortunately there was no commercial success in the DAB Plus story. Nobody paid for the service for Antenna Hungaria till that time. And because of this reason and because of the expiration of the license, we switched off the transmitters last year, September, and there is no DAB Plus service in Hungary at the moment. We hope that will be in the future. We really hope it as a broadcast network operator. And we still keep available the places on the towers, on the high towers for DAB antennas, but nobody knows what will be the future of DAB or DAB Plus in Hungary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zsolt. Very, very short. Yes, thank you. Next speaker is from Radiocom Romania, Mr. Alan Tercila, Technical Executive Director. Please, Alan, proceed.
Thank you, Tigran. Since 2004, Radiocom started for the first time in Romania the digital transmission of radio programs as a trial in Bucharest with 250 watts transmitter. So just we have coverage just in Bucharest. It's DAB, and it's still on air today. Currently, there is a working group at the government level that aims to develop the terrestrial audio digital broadcast strategy in Romania. We have allocated 2 national multiplexes, one for the public transmission of the public programs and one for the commercial ones. Radiocom, of course, analyzed the opportunity to participate in the future auction that will be organized by the National Authority for Management and Regulation in Romania. And for this one, we'll start 3 months ago a market research to test some equipment and identify the services that we can provide through a DAB Plus platform. So we are still waiting for the government to promote the legislative initiative on terrestrial audio digital broadcasting strategy. And after that, the ANCOM, the regulator, to organize the selection procedure, hopefully not later than the beginning of the next year, we hope like this, and to have the licenses needed for the transmission in DAB. And of course, Radiocom will try and will participate to all the meeting in Romania, and also like this one to support the transmission in DAB+. What can I tell you regarding also the poll we organized 2 years ago, when was the first version of the strategy was developed? There was a total opposition from the private broadcasters to switch off the FM. Not now, not over 5 years, not over 10 years. So here in Romania, maybe the DAB will be alongside with FM and internet for radio programs. Thank you, Tigran.
Thank you, Alan. We proceed with Zoran Gacinovic, Head of Radio Planning Department at Emisiona Tehnika i Veze from Serbia. Zoran. Please
hello,
share your presentation.
Hello, everybody. I try to share my presentation with you. It's okay?
Yes,
I
it's
think.
Okay.
Okay, I prepared a short presentation with a couple slides regarding introduction of DAB+ in Serbia. And the public enterprise ETV, as a Serbian broadcast network operator, started broadcasting digital radio in the DAB+ technology in October 2018 from the Avala transmission site, which is located near the capital city of Serbia, Belgrade, and cover approximately 2 million people with digital TV and radio signal. For the first trial broadcasting, ETV decided to reuse its former analog digital-ready VHF TV transmitter, unused since the analog switch off, which was modified to work in DAB+ technology using the twister DAB exciter manufactured by Timcast. In order to minimize cost, we are using the existing VHF antenna system on site, which is unfortunately horizontally polarized. The modulation signal is supplied to the DAB+ head end via an optical network, and we are using our existing microwave distribution network to send a signal to transmitters. In the next phase, during 1920, we activated and put it into operation additional 5 locations throughout Serbia, also with adapted VHF TV transmitters and existing antenna system. We only made a new VHF system at the transmission site Jastrebac, which is vertically polarized. In the table on this slideshow, you can see the power of the device we are using for our transmissions and other relevant data related to the broadcasting. There are currently 7 program broadcast in the one multiplex, and all broadcasters licensed for national coverage with a bit rate of 128 kilobit per second. Next slide show the coverage from the mentioned 6 locations, as well as the realized percentage of coverage and of the population and territory for the state values of the field level. At the moment, we are still broadcasting on the test basis, as it is necessary to adopt the digital radio strategy in order to get broadcasting licenses. Temporary licenses are renewed every 2 months. As regards the further activities, we are planning in the next period to spread our DAB+ network and activate additional 3 more locations in order to fully cover all highways in Serbia. And also we are already finalized project to cover the territory of the Republic of Serbia from 30 transmitting locations with a percentage of coverage of the territory and populations more than 95%, which should be realized also in the next period. There are also plans to release new program content in the existing multiplex, and in these last 2 slides I put some additional information regarding our final network and what we are planning what are the next steps, what we are planning to do in the next months or years maybe. And that's all for me. Thanks you for your attention. Thanks, Tigran.
Thank you, Zoran. Next speaker is from Montenegro, Ljiljana Bracanović-Nikolić, advisor to the Chief Executive for Technology at Radiodiffuzni Centar, Montenegro. Ljiljana, please proceed.
Hi to everybody. My presentation will be very short as just a moment. I think that you see my presentation. Okay. I will be very short because we are...
Ljiljana, we don't see okay. Presentation. We don't see.
You don't see presentation?
No.
Okay. Just a moment. Just a moment. Now, do you see presentation?
Yes, I hope. No, not yet. Yes. Okay. Just run the slideshow.
Okay.
Okay. okay.
It's okay now?
Yes, it's okay.
We are in the beginning of the process, and finally, it's important we are on a list of DAB countries. We start on March this year. We received temporary license from Agency for Electrical Communication and Postal Services for the trial of DAB, and we put transmitter on site Sjenica, location near to Podgorica. It's part of national multiplex or national allotment law chain. We put the 1 kilowatt transmitter and new antenna system with vertical polarization. And for that reason, I think we are very satisfied with, because of this new antenna system, with coverage of DAB plus signal, because we find that in some area where FM was poor, we have good DAB reception. This site covers 29% of population and 20% of territory, pretty big percentage, but it is densely population part of our country. We now put only 2 radio stations in this multiplex. It is public services radio 1 Montenegro and radio 98. Why only 2 stations? It is because we have not rule for commercial station to put in this multiplex. This pilot project has not yet a commercial connotation and is used to test equipment and verify signal coverage in DAB technology. And for that reason, we are not, let's say, ready to fool the multiplex with the other signals. Generally speaking, in Montenegro, we have not any problem with the FM spectrum. We have, but not big, because we are a small country. For this reason, radio broadcasters are not under pressure, let's say, for new space, for opening 2 TV stations, for new spectrum, and for that reason, they are not motivated to go to DAB+. And on the other hand, in Montenegro, we have a small media market. So at this moment, it is very difficult for us, for Broadcasting Center of Montenegro, to find an economic justification for investing in DAB+ without some other support, without some outside financial support. Anyhow, we will, let's say, follow situation, and together with this trial project, in Podgorica, we established working group which consists of representative of regulatory bodies, ministry, and radio diffusing center. And we prepared proposal of strategic starting points for the introduction of that. You can see that this proposal of strategic starting points, let's say, cover all aspects of the introduction of DAB plus in Montenegro as we see it. This proposal cover all parts: regulatory framework, technological framework, program obligation, economic framework, development of adequate communication strategy, and so on. Regarding communication, Agency for Telecommunication has started, let's say, this communication with card and device seller. They has informed the sellers of radio receivers and automotive industry that DAB technology has been proposed for the introduction of digital radio in Montenegro, and that user need to be offered only by packages that enable good DAB reception, let's say, with proper receivers in the car, in order to collect adequate information. They'll also prepare and send on last year some questionnaire to the all, let's say, companies, auto dealer in Montenegro to see what is situation in this field in Montenegro. Anyhow, we think that DAB as a platform has a future in Montenegro. Slowly, but for sure, DAB is future. There are many DABs in, let's say, in broadcasting, radio, in TV station, but we think that platform like this platform, which is independent of other services like internet, has a future. It is all from our
Thank you,
part.
Ljiljana.
Thank you for attention.
Thank you. We proceed with the speaker from Croatia, Bruno Cigrovski, Head of Radio Network Department at OIV. Bruno, please proceed.
Thank you, Tigran. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
I'll try to share my PowerPoint. Just a moment.
It's okay.
It's okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I will talk about DAB Plus in Croatia and what we did so far. In 2017, when Norway started to turn off their national FM services, it raised a lot of interest in DAB Plus here in Croatia. We had some intensive talks with our regulators, and that resulted with a trial start in November that year. Opening ceremony was held on our main site, Sljeme above Zagreb, and we started this trial with 4 sites. Of course, we wanted to gain some technological knowledge on the DAB+, but the main goal for the trial was promotion of the new digital platform. Since the focus was on promotion, we shared just our basic expenses with interested broadcasters, and we charged them just an amount that covered expenses like electricity and frequency permit fees. Since then, we had a lot of promotional activities, interviews, articles, some trade shows. And one other thing we require from broadcasters that are participating, we require from them that they promote DAB Plus through their existing FM platforms. And some of them are doing that successfully. As for the technology, we did some indoor and quite a lot of outdoor mobile reception measurements. We managed to test different transmitter and head-end equipment. And at the moment, we are conducting an audio quality tests here in Zagreb. within the company, we are comparing audio FM platform versus different bit rates on DAB+. The idea is to have some ground base for recommending different audio quality to broadcasters, or maybe even to set the minimum bit rate for future regular broadcasting. What's the current status? Now we are some 3.5 years from the trial start. Every year we extended the network, and now we have some 9 sites operational. Coverage, some 88% of the population is covered now, and 67% of the motorways. Currently we have 12 programs within the ensemble, and 2 of them are digital only programs. About the receivers, here in Croatia, home receivers can be found in all major electronic shops, but not too many models are available. As for the cars, the EECC Act about the DAB receivers in cars, it will probably enter within the new electronic communication law that's currently in preparation. And one question that always pops up when we are talking to broadcasters here is how many digital receivers or how many listeners are there? In cooperation with our Croatian Vehicle Center, recently we conducted a survey within periodic technical inspection stations across whole Croatia. They inspected whether cars produced from 2014 and newer, whether they have DAB+ receivers. So within 1 week, around 9,000 vehicles were inspected, and the result is that 30% of them had a DAB+ receiver, which is very interesting, we think. A little bit about future plans. So now, after more than 3 years of the trial, we think it's time to start the regular transmission. So we started the discussions with our content and frequency regulators. Our idea is to build a mixed national and regional multiplex with part of the capacity for national and part for the regional coverage. If we get the license for that, our plan is to build the network in 3 phases so that we gradually reach and exceed the FM coverage. A license to operate the network, that's a matter of a tender that will be out soon, hopefully. So if we win in parallel to regular transmission, we plan to commence a more serious marketing campaign. Finally, this is the photo scene used in our recent DAB+ promotional articles. Anyway, thank you very much for your attention. That's it for me.
Thank you, Bruno. And I'm calling now a colleague from North Macedonia, Arjan Ibrahimi, project manager.
Thank you, Tigran. Yes, I will finish off the whole show by presenting the status of DAB+ in North Macedonia. So as you guys might know, I'm the last one, so I hope I finish it all with a blast, since this has been a very flourishing webinar and very good work by you guys once again by establishing this webinar.
Thank you, Arjan.
You're welcome. So the current status in North Macedonia towards DAB+ and transmitting DAB+ is that we in 2019 and from 2019 to 2020 had a 1-year experimental broadcast in the city center of North Macedonia, Skopje, where we have an antenna in Vodno, which is in Skopje, where we transmitted DAB+ signals towards all receivers in Skopje and the territory close to that, which had a huge success rate, and people were very happy with the quality that could be received from DAB+ transmission. But sadly, in North Macedonia, there is a legal law that says that an experimental, a pilot project can only be implemented once, which gives us a status quo that we sadly cannot do anything about right now. We have initiated some legal changes where we have consulted all the stakeholders, and it needs to be done by. It needs. I mean, the regulator or the ministry that has initiated this one is the Ministry of Information and Administration in North Macedonia. So we hope to see some legal changes very soon, so that we can move forward with a national strategy that also includes DAP+ in the agenda, so that we also can start developing some marketing strategies and some penetration models towards actually going nationwide in North Macedonia with the topic of DAP+. But towards the implementation of DAP+, that also means a lot of work to us, since we at the moment, as I said before, we had the experimental only in the city center of North Macedonia. We want to have it nationwide, so it means that we have to increase the capacity of antenna system and also increase the energy capacities in the places that we need to develop the new systems. So this is basically what needs to be initiated and what needs to be done towards implementation of DAP+. As of lately, we have had the great fortune to be in contact with WorldDAP. So we also want to thank the representatives from WorldDAP for the great cooperation that we have had with them, and we look forward with a lot more work together with those guys, and also any other that might can come in helpful for some future collaboration towards receiving new heights with this very new emerging system, and so this is basically what I wanted to close off with. So I will leave the word to you, Tigran.
Thank you, Arjan. We are finally came to the discussion. So just a moment. I will share my screen. Before we start with the questions, here are the results of poll. So, okay, not so much people voted, but it's interesting results. Any comments from the panelists, Patrick or Karsten, Bojan?
Yes, well, I think this is not a surprising outcome. Certainly what we're seeing in countries that have adopted digital radio so far, only Norway has switched off so far. Switzerland is going to, but after that, there's no immediate sign. There's no concrete plans for other countries to switch off. So in general, it's a mixed economy. Is what we're seeing. The incentive to switch off FM, in Norway in particular, was driven by cost. So it was difficult because it's a very mountainous country. It was difficult, to have to pay for both FM and DAB distribution. But other countries, such as the UK, at the moment, some transmitters get switched off, but in terms of an overall plan, the broadcasters, they don't want to lose listeners, so they won't turn off FM until they really think they have migrated a significant number. So I think the mixed economy is correct. And then, but I think again, what we are seeing is that increasingly DAB is replacing FM, but it's not a total replacement. It's a gradual process.
Yes, I agree. Okay. Any other comment? Or we can proceed with the questions from the audience. Just a moment. First, I would like to ask one question from the chat, but I must find just a moment. Yes, this question from Dejan Pejovic. Bojan, can you explain a little bit more about price, capacity units per month?
Yes, this is a simple calculation. It's based on the capex opex. So we have the license for the DAB multiplex for R1, I think, for 7 years, and based on this, as we are a public company, so there is also included some minor profit, let me say this one, but which is transparently calculated, also approved by our agency, let me say, or by somebody, and it means it covers the whole cost. So in our case, we use the following technical scenario. We put some encoders in the content provider's studio or in their premises. We use their public internet connection. We instruct them how to configure this internet connection. And we're using this then to send the signal from their studio to our multiplexer, and from multiplexer, of course, to our transmitter sites. So the calculation is done completely, so to cover all these costs. So the only investment for the or the only cost for the content provider, it can be then calculated by number of capacity units they want to have, and by multiplying it with these costs. Yes, this is it. Yes, so like I said before, if you take, for example, I have here some tables. So if you say, for example, 56 kilobits per second, it means in protection ratio 3A, 42 capacity units. You calculate this and you get the cost that you need per month. This is it.
Thank you, Bojan. We have another question on the chat. Pavla Nešković. Bojan, what is the reliability of the LT DAB Plus transmitter?
I have to say they are quite reliable. So we are happy with them. Okay, we all know from the beginning there are some minor technical problems. This happens with any manufacturer, but we fixed this successfully, and from that point on, I have to say we have no problems with the transmitters. But I also mentioned before that we started with this was some possibility in the first tender that we can start with minus 3 dB power to lower the cost. This was a possibility we got from in the tender. So all the transmitters started in the beginning with 500 watts. So half a kilowatt was the transmitter. We achieved with this. This is also some later question on Slido. So the started with 2.5 up to 3.5 kilowatts ERP in the beginning. But as in the R2 networks requires higher was requirement for higher output power or higher ERPs. Therefore, we had also to adapt the R1 network, and we increased the power on some transmitters. We doubled the power finally, so 1 kilowatt transmitter power. Replaced those LT transmitters with another manufacturer. So now we have on R2 and on R1 network, we have ERPs from 2.5 up to 5 to 6 kilowatt is the ERP.
Thank you, Brian. I will now share the questions from the audience. Just a moment. Yes, here it is. First question, will the presentation slides be available after the webinar? Yes, if all presenters agree, we will put it on some website and send to all registered participants that are available for all registered participants. So I ask now all panelists to send me their PDF presentation, so can we make it available for all participants. Next question. DRM is 3.5 times more spectrum efficient than DAB+, and is the preferred digital radio standard in most emerging markets. Did you also consider DRM as a standard? I don't know to whom can I.
I can start.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. I'm not sure where this 3.5 times more spectrum efficient figure comes from, but let's park that. It's the preferred digital radio standard in most emerging markets. I'm not sure where the evidence is for that. I mean, it's certainly it's true it's being used in India, but that is, you know, in the AM band to cover enormous distances. The reality in Europe, the only digital broadcast standard that's been used in any meaningful way is DAB and DAB+. And what that means in practice is that for cars, it's DAB+, and for consumer receivers, well, in fact, I mean, there are very few affordable DRM receivers. In fact, I mean, I'm not aware of any which would compete in terms of price with DAB receivers. As you know, as I said, we've sold in total, over 90 million receivers, and that means that the prices are mass market. Unfortunately, the same is not true for DRM or DRM+. So I think, from a practical point of view, in Europe, the only feasible solution is DAB+. Is DAB+.
Yes, thank you, Patrick. Okay, we have now two questions.
Maybe I can I, Tigran?
Yes,
something?
yes, of course.
Okay, so Patrick has already explained an important view that, which is, as he said, his DAB is an open standard and it is in Europe widely used. Maybe I can just share you a little bit more technical to fix this 3.5 more efficient. Maybe if I can just share you with some a screenshot.
Yes.
Interesting to see. It is comparison of technologies, and here you can see DAB plus and DRM plus. It's probably it's around the same efficiency, but then we have to fix something, because in DRM they are doing with really low bit rates. they're talking about 8 12 kilobits per second for the service. And if we take this bitrate into DAB, we can also talk about 64 channels or services per max. But to my previous explanation, 19 services or 20 is an upper limit to have inside. So we have really to compare the same things. So not just to talk about very low compression and put 4 in some bit bandwidth, and then, for example, DAB with 29 or 20 services with higher quality in a bigger bandwidth. So therefore, comes probably this 3.5 more efficient, which has I think no technical background. So, but in the end, like Patrick said, we have to use some service which is widely adopted, which is open standard, and not rely on some proprietary standards, which is for me even more important than this point of view. So
yes,
this was just my
thank you.
comment.
Very good explanation.
Just to clarify, I believe that DRM is an open standard as well. But the important point is there are no receivers, and cars have DAB+. That's the point.
Yes.
And that's all, to be honest, that's all you need to know.
Thank you. Okay, I will share questions. Just a moment. Okay. Next 2 questions, very similar. Does OIV have some plans about 5G broadcasting, and is Antenna Hungary planning a 5G broadcast? So I ask.
Well, as for OIV, actually we do. We have a plan to do a 5G test, 5G broadcasting test this year. Now we are talking to regulators and to vendors for the equipment. Hopefully we will do it in next couple of months. But the focus there is on television broadcasting, not radio. So, yeah.
Okay,
maybe I can say a few words about 5G broadcasting. Yes, of course, we have some plans. We need to be ready for the future of television, so we have in mind some trial. Is currently in planning stage, and we need permission from our regulator, HACOM, to give us a parameter. We want to test on 700 megahertz, and is planned to install 2 sites, one high tower, high power on Sljeme or Tusti. This is a big site near Zagreb, and one small site in town in Zagreb. And the aim of the test is to learn the specifics of 5G broadcasting and determine the required reception level for indoor, portable, and mobile reception. And of course, the main potential of broadcasting is the simultaneous distribution of video content to many users. And of course, it's right now in the planning stage. Bruno said that we will do that this year, I hope. Depends about I say about regulatory permits, which parameters we will be get. So
thank you, Michael. Zsolt.
Yes, I'm here. So for the time being, there is no concrete plan in Antenna Hungary for the 5G broadcast. Obviously, we will have to test it in the future. Because we have to know this technology as well, but we just won last year a 12-year license for DTT service. We have just reconstructed last year our DTT networks, and we invested a lot into the DTT networks. So according to our plan, we would like to use the DTT infrastructure for long term. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next question for Bojan. Is your price for DAB related to coverage, or it's just CAPEX OPEX calculation?
It's CAPEX OPEX calculation. So the number of transmitters, the microwave connections behind the antenna systems, and so on. So this is the basis. It is. Sorry.
What happened if you plan to spread your network with more transmitters? The price will be the same.
It's a good question. Our agreement with the radio stations we made, we put there an agreement that we have a yearly possibility of increase the price for 10%. Of course, based also on CAPEX OPEX. So there is, so we then of course try to we talk to them, we get some feedback where they would like to have some more better coverage or to increase the coverage. Then we have put so we have already done this in the R1 network to increase the coverage, put some additional transmitters in, and this was then the price didn't increase because there was also this again something. The base price for the multiplex of the agency, it was 35.1 euro per capacity unit, was done that the multiplex is 70% used. So if the multiplex is 70% filled up, this is up to 70%, it is this price. Of course, if it is full, then the price should be lower. But we increased the coverage, so the price was finally the same. And it's still possible to increase 10% per year. And this is also some basis we intend to use. So 10% per year increase, not the coverage, but to increase the coverage so that we have almost fit this price.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Your poll does not give option of another broadcast standard than DAB+, so it is not conclusive. Can you add that option, please? Many countries have chosen DRM. As I said on the beginning, we focused on DAB, and so we can talk about a lot of things regarding future of radio broadcasting. This is one of the reasons why we don't include all other technologies. Okay, we can also include HD radio in the United States and so on, but in this part of country, we decided to just focus on DAB because this part of country, the part of Europe is some technology that will come, and we would like to help broadcast network operators, our colleagues, to successfully implement DAB+. Any other comment from speakers?
Well, I will repeat what I said earlier on.
Okay.
In Europe, people are not using DRM.
Yes.
It's as simple as that. And the idea that many countries have chosen DRM, I think, is a little bit misleading, to put it mildly. Honestly, all these questions about DRM are, they're a distraction. There are no receivers, very few receivers. They do have cars with DRM in India. So if you want to go to India, then great. But in Europe, European cars, in particular following the European Electronic Communications Code, it's DAB+ that the manufacturers are choosing. So that is all there is to say on the matter.
Okay. Antenna Hungary planning to use is Antenna Hungary planning to use their DRM enabled transmitter for DRM broadcast like other international broadcasters do?
For the time being, there is no plan for this service.
Okay, thank you. What is the broadcaster's view on DAB+ in Croatia? Hey, Bruno, is question for you.
Yes. Okay. So we are conducting a trial for some 3.5 years now, and every year we manage to fill the ensemble with radio programs. Every year we have a reshuffle with our agency with electronic media. The last call for participation showed much larger interest than the multiplex capacities. So I would say the interest for DAB here definitely exists. We are planning the regular transmission now. I'm not sure what will happen then, but we have to see. First, there's a tender for the regular transmission, then we'll see the prices, and then we'll see what will happen then with the interest. But now we are talking to broadcasters, and they are interested. They are interested, so hopefully they will stay interested.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, in which country will the MBT conference take place in 2022? It will take place in Belgrade, Serbia, and we all hope that it will be physically, because this webinar is, is not a replacement for the conference, because conference means much more. It's many social event, networking, and so on. So we all hope that next live MBT conference physical will be in Belgrade next year. Next, does OIV have plans to further expand the number of free-to-air pay TV multiplexes?
Okay.
It's for TV session.
For TV, probably.
Yeah.
Of course, DAB Plus is in trial in Croatia. Well, for now, not. There are no plans, but if there will be interest of some broadcaster or content provider, of course, OIV is ready to be a network operator. Maybe some future sports events will be in 4Q UHD format, so we are open to provide technical solution, but depends about the interest of content provider. That's all.
Okay, thank you. And the last question, what is typical existing ERP for DAB transmitters in Slovenia? Bojan?
Yes, it's for larger sites like we have it now in R2 network and also in R1, it is 5 kilowatts. So 5 kilowatt is the ERP, and for then we have slower ones, but this is then because the number of high power stations, if 1 kilowatt is high power, but is limited. So these are some nine locations, and then the rest has to be done with 100 watts, even less transmitters. So that is very low ERP. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We finished with the question from the audience. I have the last question for our keynote presenters. Based on your experiences from different countries, which advice you can give to here present representatives of broadcasting operators from the region for the successful and faster implementation of digital radio DAB+.
If I go first, I think
yes.
my first observation would be there needs to, if I go back to the 5 C's, that is the framework, and I think we've heard quite a bit about coverage, and that I think what I've heard has been very sensitive. And I think the bit that I'm a little concerned about is what is the advantage from the listener's point of view? What is the advantage that DAB+ offers over FM? I think you have to be able to answer that question. And in different countries, it does mean different things. So one of the slides I showed at the start was about extra choice. So, but I'm not seeing lots of extra new stations being launched here. So that's a question mark for me. But when I say that, I mean, when I look at France and what's happening there, I mentioned that they were launching their national stations this year. Now, they're not launching lots of new stations, but what they are doing is improving the coverage. And so they have a patchwork of FM frequencies which basically do not give national coverage. And with DAB+, they will be making sure that there is a seamless journey for the listener when they're in the car. In Italy, it's a slightly different story again, because they have a lot of FM services and the interference is quite a problem. So in Italy, the message is really about, and I saw, I can't remember who showed it, but it was, I think the Serbian presentation had an image of I'll try, my Italian is not very good, Il suono perfetto, which is the perfect sound. And that's the message that they try to sell. So I think the one thing I would like to see more of is understanding from the consumer's point of view why this is a good idea. As I say, there's not just one right answer, but you do need to be able to answer that question. I think with cars, the reality is that most new cars in Europe will come with DAB as standard. So it will be there. So that's great. But if you want to encourage people to buy DAB receivers for their home, there needs to be a reason for them to do so. So think about that. As I say, each market will have its own individual requirements, but you do need to answer that question. What is the benefit for listeners?
Okay. Thank you. I'm not sure if Karsten is still here. I think he's not. Bojan, maybe you can something to say finally.
Yeah, it's Patrick has already said a very interesting point of view, but when I was before saying that there is no new content, there's no digital only radio station here, but there is not a difficult approach. So as soon as we have nationwide coverage, for example, in our first network, radio stations which were previously only on some region, they now have the coverage of the whole country. So for those listeners in the other part of the country, this is a new station at the end. It's a new station they can receive at home, they can receive it in the car. So there are more stations finally for the listeners. And this is some a new approach for them, something new. Even we have radio stations which already have nationwide coverage, but with DAB they get additional coverage because it's hard to get 99%. But with DAB there are some areas which were not covered before with FM, and these are it's marginal at the end, but. And for example, also we have, so it's very interesting. I was once on a talk show on radio, and I got a listener who was calling in and said, DAB is great. I have it in my car. I listen to it every day. As soon as I was installed in my car, I never used FM again because it's an experience. And finally, people who first start to listen on DAB say, I will never go to FM back again. And this is some feedback we've received, and this is something we have to announce to marketing, that people have to try it. Even, for example, in Slovenia, you can get in shops, in discounters, you get radios for 25, 30 euros. This means that DAB is there if we want to have it. It's already ready for mass market. So people just have to try it, and as soon as they try it, it's useful. So it's really efficient. So therefore, we have just to communicate this to people. Marketing, I think, is here the next step. And even radio stations already know this because, like I said, on Friday we received we attended in Slovenia for new licenses for digital stations. And over the weekend, I received 3 emails, private stations asking, what do we need? What is the next step if we apply for this license? What are the costs and so on? So the interest is there at the end.
Yes. Thank you, Bojan. Okay,
Tigran, please,
yes.
I have to say, Bojan, that was the most passionate speech I've heard you give, and that was brilliant. That is what we want. You need because you're talking about real life experience. You know, the experience of the listeners, the experience in cars, the experience in the retailers. You really brought it to life, and that's what's required. And you're talking from the heart, and you understand the benefits. It's fantastic. That's what you want. It's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. I fully agree with you. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Bojan. Thank you, Patrick. We came to the end of our webinar, and I would like to thank all keynote speakers and panelists for their participation, and of course, audience staying with us all the time and asking questions. I hope that information we heard will be useful to all of us. Thank you once again. And bye-bye.
Thank you very much.